know it's safe to go back in the water, you can't.
Make you believe.
These victorious GIs have done their duty. They answered their country's call, left their jobs, their families, their sweethearts, and beat the Nazi tyranny on 1,000 battlefields.
I don't know how to tell you this. I really don't want to hurt you, but I just can't wait for you any longer. Perhaps when the war is over, we can be friends again. Sincerely, Rosemary.
They haven't had a graduation dance since 1945 because Major Chatham wouldn't allow it. You know, I feel sorry for him. He's all alone in that house, so close to where he found his daughter and that boy.
Somebody robbed a market up near Columbus. Cut some kid up and took his car. They think he may be headed this way.
Somebody was chasing me. Someone was chasing me, and Major Chatham grabbed me.
Pam, the guy who chased you may be the one the state police are looking for right now.
They never found out who did it. It had to be someone in town, someone who knew that she was called Rose.
Deputy London has just informed me that a prowler has been seen around the campus. And, well, he could be dangerous.
Damn graduation thing. We haven't had any trouble out of that college for more than 30 years.
Hi, I'm Barbara Crampton from Chopping Mall, and you're listening to The Hysteria Continues.
Yes, indeed you are. Welcome back to The Hysteria Continues, episode 42. And what we're dissecting this week is The Prowler, which is, considering the kind of very mute pastoral music in the background, it's one of the most violent slasher movies of the early 1980s. And it's the choice of Erik. And so without further ado, I shall welcome you to our rude intruders. Erik, how are you doing?
I'm good. Enjoying the pastoral music.
It's bizarrely... It's bizarrely pastoral, isn't it? Or very kind of low-key for such a violent movie.
Yeah, but there is a new wave band in there somewhere in the finest 1981 tradition, so that'll balance it out.
Indeed, yes, absolutely. Well, yeah, how's things with you in Dublin? We haven't recorded for a little while, have we?
No, it's okay. So good. Things are good.
Okay.
Seen some good movies recently, so we'll talk about them soon.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, good stuff. And Nathan, how are you doing?
I'm alright. I kind of got a stuffy nose.
Oh, have you? I thought you sounded a bit bunged up. But you're... Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Well, we shall... Hopefully you'll be unbunged later, or whatever. So, what?
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what it means either, but it just sounds rude.
It does.
Oh.
Well, you have to read a doodle entendre into everything we say on the Hysteria Continues. It's part of the...
Yes.
You have to look at the small print and the contract. But, Joseph, how are you doing? Are you bunged up?
I am not the Prowler.
You're not the Prowler? No, okay. No. But how's your rash?
My goodness, it's been forever. It's gone.
Has it? Okay, well that's
long
good.
Gone.
I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear. So, right, well, bung rashes, and I'm sure there's much more to come. We'll be talking about the Prowler in a little while. We're also going to be talking another top three. This time we're going to be doing top 3 revelations on maskings and or motivations from slasher movies. So it's going to be a bit spoilerific, so we will tell you what the film is before we talk about it. And if you haven't seen it or you don't want it spoiled, then, just, fast forward for 5 minutes or so. But that should be quite an interesting one. But before that, we'll get on to recently seen. So, Joseph, what have you been watching recently?
Well, I finally saw the found footage anthology VHS, and droid just went off.
Yeah, what was that?
What was that?
I just silenced it because I usually have it on silent. I forgot.
You naughty boy. But anyway, I saw VHS, which is the found footage anthology film, and the first story I really liked with the frat guys who take the 2 girls to the hotel in the hopes of having some kind of orgy or something. But actually, you know what? I like the movie, but it's one of those movies where, after it's over with, you're just like, okay, that's it. And that's pretty much how I felt about it. I mean, the rest of the stories are either, they're okay, but they're not great. The wraparound story, I didn't like the way that played out, how it, kind of I'm not going to spoil it, but the placement is all I'll say. But yeah, I mean, it's worth one watch, but I don't think I'd ever go back and watch it again.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about it? How about you, Nathan? You seen it?
Yeah, I think it's horrible that the slasher short story in that film is actually, in my opinion, the worst one. Like, I actually didn't like it at all. And you guys know me, I usually like everything. So, I mean, I don't know, just something didn't sit well with me on that one. I don't know. I mean, I agree that I like the first story. And the other stories really are just kind of forgettable. I mean, right now, I just saw it, recently, and I cannot remember much about the rest of the stories. All I remember is that first one. And I don't know. I didn't hate it, but I was disappointed.
Okay. What about you, Erik? Have you seen it?
Yeah, I did see it. Yeah, I quite enjoyed it, I have to say. I mean, I do agree that slasher one's quite weak, and also there is a segment with a honeymooning couple that just doesn't go anywhere, and when it comes to the end of it, it's like, what, is that it? But that first story is really good, and I thought the last one was fun as well, where again, it's sort of frat boys are going to a Halloween party. I thought that one was quite interesting. The wraparound story, I think, as you said, as Joseph said, it doesn't really doesn't really go anywhere. But overall, I was entertained by it. I don't think it's quite this sort of masterpiece that the pre-hype machine has made it out to be. But I did enjoy it.
I mean, I enjoyed bits of it. I thought the first story was really well done, and it was, to be honest, it's the only one that actually approached having any sense of fear for me, really, in any way, shape, or form. The thing what really sunk the whole thing for me was just like this endless parade of obnoxious characters, which it's great to see them being killed off, but it's just, do we really need kind of endless frat boys being obnoxious? It just got a bit tiring after a while, and it would have been interesting to have even have somebody in the movie who was over 30 or something a different step in some ways, rather than just kind of frat boys and teenage girls being killed and being obnoxious and stupid. I don't know, it doesn't really sit well with me. I agree. I thought the first segment was really well done for what it was, regardless of the annoying characters at the start. The last story I thought was it's very over the top, but I thought that actually the characters in it, although there's no characters to them really, were at least a little bit more believable. It was the Ty West segment, which is the honeymooning couple. I didn't really understand what that was meant to be, or I know it's a found footage thing, so it's not meant to be like a beginning, middle, and an end. But yeah, that didn't really work. The Alien one didn't work at all, I didn't think. And the slasher one, I agree with Nathan, I think was by far the worst of them, which is bizarre because you would have thought that would have been the best, but it was so perfunctory.
I did like the way the killer was caught on camera, though, in that one. I thought that was interesting, even if the overall segment itself was quite weak.
Yeah.
The first story is the one. It's the only story that has any sense of a beginning, a middle, and an end. It has some kind of closure. The rest of them are kind of vague, and I know that's kind of tantamount when you come to found footage. You're not supposed to get everything, but I would have, I wanted a little more. I wanted something. I had to piece together so much that I'm like, I just started getting a headache, and I just didn't care anymore.
Well, Sorry.
I was just going to say, as far as the first story goes, I thought that they did an excellent job at actually making it a little scary. Like, I don't know, there was the scene, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but the scene where the two guys exit the bathroom and come into the room, and the way that a girl is posed, I don't know, it was really weird looking, and I was like, oh no, that was actually pretty tense, because it was just sort of some weird standoff for a few minutes or something.
What I liked about that first segment was, even before anything nasty or supernatural starts happening, that girl's eyes were really creeping me out.
Yeah, did they kind of artificially enlarge them, do you think?
That's what I'm assuming they've done, yeah. Because there was something not quite right about them.
Yeah.
For my money, VHS is okay, but they could take that first story and just release it as a short film, and then it would be even better.
It was the the cut around, well, the wraparound story could have been really good, and it had the potential to be really, really creepy, didn't it? But again, it made the characters so obnoxious that you didn't really care what happened to them.
No, not really.
And is it weird that the wraparound story ends before the final story?
That was strange, I thought, yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of guessing and it doesn't really give anything away, but it sets it up in the beginning that the wraparound story is these kind of hoodlums who are hired by somebody to go to this house to find a VHS tape, and they're told you'll know which one it is when you find it. So I'm presuming the one at the end was the one that they were meant to find. I'm kind of guessing, but
the one thing I wonder about is why. I guess you don't really need to know, but the Skype story with the aliens. Why would someone put a Skype video on VHS?
I know.
Yeah.
It was a little bit. That was a bit bizarre, and especially he said he wasn't recording it, although he may have been lying. But yeah.
Maybe I'll make a movie called DVD.
Yes.
Or Blu-ray.
Yeah. Well, why not? Why not?
Yeah, well, the thing is, all the found footage segments look so contemporary, and they're all shot on VHS. It's like, VHS is like, 15 years ago now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And also, they weren't, there was the honeymooning couple were using kind of digital video recorder, weren't they? So they weren't using, I don't think any of them, apart from maybe the wraparound story, were using a VHS recorder. Or maybe the very last story, but yeah, I just thought it's a classic case of bit of the Emperor's New Clothes, and I don't really understand the absolute adulation that it's getting from some people. It doesn't, it just didn't, bits of it did it for me, but considering, those kind of anthology stories are always going to be a bit hit or miss, aren't they? You're always going to get some stronger segments than others, but when you have more weaker segments than stronger ones, then I think basically your film isn't successful in what it's setting out to do, and I don't think VHS is. And I'd be very surprised if it makes a big splash at the box office. I don't think it will. Is it even go? Is it? I know it's on
coming
demand,
to demand in America at least.
Yeah. Oh well.
See,
yeah,
there's better found footage and there's better anthologies. I suggest you go elsewhere.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay, well, is there anything else you've been watching, Joseph?
Yeah, I saw the film Absentia, the one you recommended.
Okay, yeah.
It's streaming on Netflix, and I loved that movie. I thought it was so good. It's such a slow burn, but there's so many scenes that are just, skin-crawlingly creepy. And the end, when you get to the explanation of what's going on, it's a little vague and kind of... okay, it's a little out there, but it also kind of works, metaphorically for the one of the main characters. So I think it works that way. But if you like movies that just take their time and just build up, then I would definitely say, hey, go watch Absentia. It's on Netflix.
Excellent, because I think it was Patrick from Scream Queens. You may not have been Patrick, but I think it was who kind of turned me onto that film in the first place. So it's kind of a bit of a kind of like domino effect of lots of people seeing it, and he was really thrilled that I liked it. Although he on the latest, I don't know if you've heard the latest Scream Queens show, he says that he watched 3 films that we recommended. One, which was Fright, which I mentioned I'd seen, which he said he loved, and then he also watched Evil Laugh, which he thought was funny with the butt grabbing scene and the cleaning scene. But then he says he watched Don't Go in the Woods Alone, and Nathan, he's not very happy with you.
Well, hasn't he listened to this show enough to know by now that not many people have my taste?
Yes, well, I think it's a lesson to Patrick and a lesson to you all. So, yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad you liked Absentia. Have you seen it, guys? I can't remember if
I did. I've seen it since as well. Since we recorded last, I liked it as well. I have to say.
I haven't, but I want to.
Okay, well. So that's 3 out of 4 is not bad. So yeah, let us know what you think about it, Nathan, when we come to it. But that all sounds.
It's a classic case of you were saying that VHS is populated by the most obnoxious people, whereas Absentia has really nice characters that you can.
Yeah, I liked every character in that film.
Like the 2 sisters are really sort of likable characters. I thought
definitely. Yeah, you know what? Another thing is about Absentia is they look like real people. I mean, the boyfriend, the cop character, he's kind of he's kind of heavy set and kind of a normal guy, and then the one sister's kind of chunky and she's not all model looking, and the other girl's just kind of a plain Jane girl. It's a really good film. I mean, it's much better than VHS.
Yes, a lot better. But okay, sorry. Apologies if you heard there was lots of purring going on, but that was Seabiscuit who decided to come visit. So. And
how is Biscuit today?
How is she? She's all right. Yeah, I've only just been back from holiday for a couple of days, so she's quite pleased to see us. And sorry,
I was going to say, did Seabiscuit start purring when Joseph mentioned the cop in Absentia?
That she'd gone by that point. But
I thought she might have appreciated him.
Well,
yeah. See what you're getting at, Eric.
Yeah. On other cat news, I mean, obviously, I don't know if I spoke about it last time, but sadly, Gilbert passed away recently.
Yeah.
But we've got we're adopting two boy cats, who are called Teddy and Timmy, which we're probably going to be changing their names to something. But anyway, so you'll probably hear them purring in the next podcast. So yes. Anyway, enough.
You will always have cats, Justin.
I will always have cats. Well, I've always had cats. I've never not had a cat. So yeah. Well, there you go. Lots of cats. But anything else, Joseph?
Yeah, one more. I finally watched Don't Go to Sleep, the 1982 TV movie. I think it's 1982.
Yeah,
it's got Dennis Weaver in it, and I can never remember the woman's name. But anyway,
Valerie Harper.
Yeah, that's it. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I was a little disappointed with a few aspects. For one, I mean, I like Dennis Weaver, but I really thought he was really wooden in this film, and I didn't believe him at all. And usually, he was really good in Duel, but here it's just like he didn't get a second take in a lot of his shots, and it kind of irritated me. And I think some of it might have been hyped up a little bit. I mean, like the pizza cutter scene, I liked it, but I thought it could have been handled a little better. And I didn't really care much for the shock ending. I mean, I won't spoil it, but I liked the ending with I'll just say the doctor and the one character, because I liked the implications of it. The whole shock ending kind of undermined that, and I thought it took away some of the emotion out of that one character. I mean, it kind of, undercut what that character went through. But, overall, it has some really, creepy scenes, and I would recommend it, especially like the one where the girl gets under her bed, and then the camera kind of pans up to who she's talking to. Just the way they did that is just really creepy.
Sorry, excuse me. I mean, it's a film that I really like but partly probably because I saw it when it aired originally back in 1982 or 83, whenever it aired over here in the UK. But yeah, it has the limitations of lots of TV movies, I kind of guess. But I still think I watched it fairly recently. I think it still stands up. But it's still quite difficult to get hold of, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe not for you, Joseph, but
you probably watched it. It's a TV movie, so it probably came on TV.
Yeah, probably did.
Well, I have to say, it does go some places that a lot of TV films don't. I mean, it has a lot of like unexpected moments, and specific people, they exit stage right in some fairly, unique and unpredictable ways. So as far as TV movies go, it's pretty, it's out there. It's a little different than a lot of TV movies.
And I think it's there's I think the version I've got is I got a VHS version, which I don't actually think was even an official version. I think it's a bootleg, but some versions of it are missing quite a lot of footage apparently. Bits or a bit in the middle of it. There's a whole kind of 5 minute segment kind of cut out when the two sisters are talking. So somebody was talking about that recently and asked if I think it's actually the DVD release actually that came out fairly recently is missing quite a lot of footage, or I might be wrong. But anyway, yeah. Well, thank you, Joseph. Is there anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, cool. How about you, Nathan?
I also watched Don't Go to Sleep, and I liked the pizza cutter scene. I thought it was.
Oh, I liked it. I liked it. I think you hyped it up because when we went running, you were like, just wait for the pizza cutter scene. And by the time it was over, I was like, okay, that was pretty cool, I guess.
Well, have you not learned now not to listen to me? I mean, everybody else knows this, and you always.
I try not to, but some of it still gets through.
Well, you shouldn't have let that part get through. But no, I love Don't Go to Sleep. I actually loved everything about it. I didn't dislike one thing about it. I have to say, it's amazing and incredible and fantastic and terrific. All four.
Wow. Okay, that's high praise indeed. But if you haven't seen Don't Go to Sleep, I mean, I definitely recommend it. As it was a real tail end of when TV horror movies were good. Do they? Forgive me for asking this, because I don't think they do. Do they actually do TV movies of the week anymore in America?
No.
No, you can watch Lifetime movies. I think like the Lifetime television for women.
Those
channel.
Are pretty terrible.
They have movies now.
Yeah, we get True Life movies over here, which is all sort of American stuff about, I don't know.
I think the last one that was, sort of, slasher-esque would probably be that I've Been Waiting for You back in like 1998 or 99 or whenever it came out. And that's pretty much when it just, went kaput.
Well, aren't the My Super Psycho Sweet 16 made for TV?
That's true.
Yeah, they are. That's true, but they're not they're not network TV movies. They're like cable TV movies.
Yeah.
Okay, because we never really got. I don't think we ever got sort of that kind of TV movie of the week in the UK. I mean, we had loads of hour-long sort of thriller, sort of made for like the Brian Clemens.
Oh yeah, those are excellent too.
And they're kind of like mini movies, but they're not really, they're not like 90 minutes or anything like that, I don't think. But okay, well, no, I'm glad you enjoyed Don't Go to Sleep, Nathan. Anything else?
Well, the only other thing I've watched recently is I rewatched Hostel Part 2.
Okay.
And I did not care a whole lot for it the first time I saw it, and I kind of liked it better this time. I think my biggest problem is I didn't think the girl characters, the three girls, were very fleshed out. I don't know, I like the angle with the two businessmen, who were actually going to do the kill. Like, I kind of wanted to see more from that angle, and I thought that they didn't show enough of that. But, I mean, overall, I think it was a decent movie with some awesome, death, setups. But it does break one of my, least favorite rules ever when watching a sequel. And semi-spoilers for anybody that hasn't seen it yet. Skip ahead if you haven't seen Hostel 2. But they kill off the guy from Part 1, and I can't stand when a survivor of a previous movie gets killed off in the sequel, because look, this character paid their dues. They went through hell, and now you're just going to go and kill them off in the sequel like they meant nothing. Okay,
I can feel
in the first 5 minutes of the film too.
Yeah,
yes,
I can
and
feel
it's
an
BS.
Alice reference coming on.
Yeah,
actually, I wasn't going to mention her because she's not dead. But Crazy Ralph, he died in Part 2, and I don't like that. I'm like, you don't kill off a character that survived. Okay, they're already a survivor. Okay, I don't want them to be a victim in the next movie. I don't like it. It ain't fair. It ain't right. I'm done.
Nightmare on Elm Street are constantly doing that.
I love the first Hostel. I love the first Hostel, but I saw the second one. I saw it once at the theater, and I did not like it. I thought it was a rehash of the first one. I thought the first one had, the characters were more interesting. I liked the death scenes in Hostel 2, but that was it. I haven't really had the gumption to go back and rewatch it, but I might.
You should rewatch it. I liked it better.
I prefer the second one to the first.
I do as well. I much prefer the second one to the first one.
I won't go that far.
No, I disagree there.
Oh, okay. Well, we should have a one future podcast. We should have a sort of a knockdown or whatever. What they call it? Not a knockdown. What's that thing?
A knockdown drag out fight.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, over Hostel 1 on 2.
We could have our own Hostel.
Exactly.
2 versus 2.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well. Okay. Well. Thank you, Nathan. Isn't there nothing else you wanted to add?
No, I've done with my rant.
Okay. Thank you. Right. How about you, Erik?
Okay. I saw Piranha 3DD, and I saw it in 2DD. Now, I have to say that it is a bad film, but I don't think it's as bad as the critics were making it out when it came out theatrically. It's set in a water park this time, Jaws 3D style. and the owner has sourced the water for the theme park by drilling into an underground well, which unleashes the piranha again. And, you know, parts of it are fun, but what it is really lacking is the creative gore of the first piranha. That first piranha came with a lot of good reviews, but I was a bit underwhelmed by the first half of it. I thought there was too much TNA and all that, but I thought once the piranha action started, I was really with it then. But whereas this one, there is no sort of creative gore effects or anything. It is still kind of fun though, and it's really incredibly short. It's like the end credits start rolling before the 70-minute mark, and then you have a very long credits roll involving bloopers and outtakes, and lots of silliness involving David Hasselhoff. But I wouldn't recommend it, but I do think it was probably unfairly treated by the critics.
Well, it's funny,
and actually, some of the effects look like they could have been good in 3D. I'm kind of, I was half kind of wishing I was watching the 3D version.
But wasn't the guy who made it the guy behind the Feast films?
Yes.
Which are quite gory, aren't
John Gulager, is his name?
But they're pretty gory films, aren't they? So it's just interesting.
No, it is gory, but there's no invention to the gore. Like, there's lots of blood, but you don't see that. Like in the first Piranha, you remember that scene where the girl gets her hair caught in the outboard motor?
Yeah.
Like, stuff like that isn't present really in the sequel.
Which is funny, isn't it? When you're making a sequel, you think you would actually go... but I guess they took the TNA and the silly comedy angle and just took it that way, didn't they? From what I've heard. But I've not had the pleasure, not yet, anyway.
Yeah.
But I know, Nathan, you loved it, didn't you? You did see it in 3D.
Yeah, I saw it in 3D, which made it even all the more awesome.
What about you, Joseph? I can't remember. You saw it as well, didn't you? Or...
No, I haven't seen it. Okay. I thought the first one was just okay. I didn't think it was great, so I haven't really been like crazy going out of my way to see it. But if Erik says it's like really really short and to the point, then I might just kind of throw it in there somewhere.
Okay, well, fair enough. What else have you been watching, Erik?
Well, I watched Let Me In, which is Hammer's remake of Let the Right One In, directed by Matt Reeves, who did Cloverfield, and actually. I really, really enjoyed it. Now, it's been a while since I've seen Let the Right One In, but I'm pretty sure it's kind of a shot-for-shot remake. I mean, it deviates in some ways, but for the most part, it sticks to the script of the original. And I suppose a lot of people's complaints was that makes the film kind of redundant. But because it's been a while since I've seen Let the Right One In, it was kind of like... it's kind of like rewatching a film after 5 years, and I thought it was really, really interesting. Again, they've lucked out by casting two fantastic young actors in the leads, which is what they did in the original film as well. This one has a terrific car crash sequence, and it's all shot from the inside of a car. I know it involves a small amount of CGI, but the majority of it is practical, and it's really, really impressive. The only problem with it is they use some dodgy CGI effects for the vampire kills. What it brought to mind was, I don't know if you saw that I Am Legend remake with Will Smith. The creatures in that were so incredibly cartoony looking, and that's kind of the effect that you get sometimes in Let Me In. But otherwise, I found it really, really good. A really, really intelligent remake, I thought.
Okay, I've seen both of them. I haven't seen the remake for a while, but I do remember. I don't know if any of you have read the book.
No.
That was based on, but the books was really good. Obviously, it's very close to the book. Both of them are very close to the book, but they do leave out the really interesting subplot with the guy who looks after her, and he kind of comes back from the dead, and he's like a zombie shuffling around. This kind of paedophile zombie.
I was always wondering that, because he dies by being bitten by her.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, why doesn't he come back?
Well, because he burns his face off, doesn't he? And then and then but in the book, she does bite him, and he falls out the hospital window, then comes back to life as this kind of horribly disfigured zombie, and he's shuffling around. And there's a great scene in the book where one of the kids who's tormenting, or the main kid in the film, is kind of trapped in dark in this kind of underground, sort of in the den, with this kind of zombie shuffling around after him, and it was just neither of the films did that, which I thought was strange, because it was actually, probably the most kind of standard horrific kind of bit in the book. But yeah, okay, cool. What about you, Joseph and Nathan? Have you seen the Hammer remake?
I haven't seen either, actually.
Okay.
You should see it. I've seen both, and I actually thought the remake was really well done as well.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. And anything else?
Yeah, the one last thing I saw, and did I mention on the podcast last time I bought a multi-region Blu-ray player?
We said you were
in anticipation of the upcoming releases of Halloween 2 and 3 on Blu-ray in the States. So I purchased Evil Dead 2, which was region locked from the States, and thankfully it works. And I know it is a great film. I still vastly prefer the original. But I thought it was great fun watching it on Blu-ray. There's some great extras there. There's about 97, 98-minute documentary on the making of the film involving all the principal lead. I think there's about 6 actors in the film. They're all there being interviewed. A lot of them didn't take part in previous releases of the film. The Blu-ray does show up lots of deficiencies in the special effects, though. But I mean, that's not a problem on an Evil Dead film. For me, anyway. When you look at some of the stop motion effects, the original live action elements are incredibly grainy, and it sort of does look really, really hokey. But because it's Evil Dead 2, that's not a problem. The effects problem is more an issue for me on films like Aliens, where the miniatures looked really, really awful when I was watching it on Blu-ray. But no, Evil Dead 2 Blu-ray was terrific. I mean, this is only the second time I've bought this film, I have to say, but I know lots of people keep double dipping on Evil Dead 2, but it's probably worth it on this occasion because also there's lots of behind the scenes footage of the effects workshop that I remember being on the Laserdisc version, which I saw at a friend's house in the mid-90s, that never made it onto DVD, but now it's on this Blu-ray edition, and it's great fun to watch.
Okay, because I've got the Blu-ray of the British release, but it's got a few bits on it, but it's obviously vastly inferior, isn't it, to the American release? So I'll have to see if I've got any money left to see whether or not I double dip. Because when's the Halloween 2 and 3 discs out? That's not
mid-September, I think. I think the 18th of September.
Okay, so it's only a month away. Just over a month away, isn't it? Under a month away. Sorry.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I've just ordered the Anchor Bay Blu-ray of Halloween 4. Because it promised in the press release there was going to be 30 minutes of deleted scenes, and I thought, that'll be interesting. And I've just read I'm starting to read reviews now saying that those 30 minutes of deleted scenes are not on the disc.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And also there was a commentary ported over from one of the DVDs that also was promised that isn't on the disc either. So be warned if you're purchasing Halloween 4 to know what you're.
Is there anything on there that's worth apart from?
There's a new commentary on it. Okay. And I've never owned Halloween 4 on DVD, so it's not that big an issue with me. But I was really looking forward to seeing 30 minutes of deleted scenes because I was thinking that's a lot of deleted scenes for a film like Halloween 4.
Yeah, absolutely.
I should have I should have followed up on my suspicions.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Actually, talking about sort of DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff, I actually got, if you remember way back in the mist of time, I and like many other people ordered Blu-rays from Horror Movie Empire.
Oh yeah,
and got ripped off. Well, they never turned up, and I didn't get my money back. But then, out of the blue, a couple of weeks ago, I got a refund of $50. So it just goes to show sometimes these things do come good. So apparently everyone's got refunds now. So it doesn't mean it's still annoying that I didn't get my Maniac Blu-rays and all the Blue Underground Blu-rays I ordered, but it's still good that I got the money back. So anyway, a little happy ending there for you, Erik.
Oh,
have you had a happy ending?
I've had many happy endings.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Oh, well, that's nice. So is there anything else you've been watching?
Lots of things, but I won't bore you with them.
Okay. Well, no, thank you very much. I mean, we haven't recorded for a little while, so we've got quite a lot to cram in, haven't we, Erik?
Why do you always direct these puns at me?
What do you mean? I'm just saying we've got a lot of stuff to cram in.
Filthmonger.
Aren't you?
Aren't you?
Well,
exactly.
Yeah, I am. But...
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll just run through a few things because I've been on holiday for the last couple of weeks, and so I've been watching movies under the stars, which has been absolutely lovely. Been in La Palma, which is it's got the clearest skies apparently in the world, the best place to see stars. So above us was the Milky Way, which is amazing to actually see it without binoculars or anything like that. Well, not binoculars, telescope. But we watched loads and loads of movies, and funny enough, we watched. I don't know if any of you've seen it. Talking about him, but David Hasselhoff, Terror at London Bridge. Have you ever seen that?
No,
a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of because again, I listened to the most recent Screen Queens. And they talked about Time After Time, which is the kind of 1979 movie with is it Mary Steenburgen and Malcolm McDowell, and about H.G. Wells chasing Jack the Ripper to 1970s San Francisco. And it's a film I haven't seen for ages, but really piqued my interest to watch it. But Terror at London Bridge is kind of not exactly a remake, but it's a similar kind of idea. Whereas London Bridge, which has moved to, where was it? Ohio, somewhere, for real. And they find this stone with this one missing piece that's at the bottom of the Thames, and they take it over and put it over and have this big ceremony. But somehow Jack the Ripper has been imprisoned in a stone and is now unleashed into this small town and goes around and starts killing the women. And David Hasselhoff is a cop who's just moved from the big city to be to this small town, and he's basically chasing the Jack the Ripper around these kind of London, sort of Victorian London streets, which they've kind of recreated for like tourists. And it's kind of typical David Hasselhoff even film, and he's pretty funny in it, and it's quite a silly movie. And you've got Adrienne Barbeau in it. It's always good to see, although she's got a bit of a thankless role in it. But what about you, Nathan? Have you seen that one?
No.
Okay, well, it's worth watching for Hasselhoff frills. So that was an interesting one. Watched Ghost Galleon again because obviously we're in Spain or near close to Spain, so had to watch that, and that's as good as I remember. You
weren't close to Spain.
Love that movie.
Sorry.
You weren't close to Spain. You were in the Canaries. You were close to Africa.
Well, but the Canaries are Spanish, aren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, if I go to the Cayman Islands, I don't say I've gone to the UK.
Well, you could do. It's a matter of whatever, anyway, Erik. So, but anyway, so I was watching as I was in Spain. I was watching the Ghost Galleon, or near Spain. Oh, Erik. Anyway, so I watched Ghost Galleon. What else to watch? I watched Slice, the Thai ladyboy slasher movie.
What?
What do you mean? What?
A ladyboy slasher movie?
Yes.
They've
Slice.
They've spotted a gap in the market.
They have. Well, a gap in the something with which is incredibly daft. It was kind of like it was quite a new film. It was from a couple of years ago, and it's kind of like a cross between Seven with somebody in a killer in this massive red floating. I mean, it's huge. Kind of the biggest. It's practically like a circus tent style poncho and red hood, who's just walking through Bangkok with no one even giving them a second glance, even though they've got billowing this red cloak. And is going killing people in horrible ways. And this guy who's in prison, who used to be a police officer, gets brought out of prison to try and track down the killer because he's got some connection to him. And it kind of it veers off into all sorts of silly ways. It's very gory. It's worth a watch. It's not great by any stretch, but it's quite an interesting sort of take on the slasher movie. And to be honest, it goes from the slasher movie and it turns into more of a police procedural drama through the rest of it. But that's worth a watch. The other one, just quickly, was which I hadn't seen before, and I'd always wanted, was William Malone's Scared to Death, from 1982, although I believe it's shot in 79. And
love that movie. It's a good one.
It's really good, isn't it? I hadn't seen it before, and for the first 40 minutes, it plays like your classic, the classic kind of slasher movie, with the killer, the masked killer is a kind of slimy green mutation monster. Man in a suit monster instead of the kind of masked maniac, but it's got all of the it's got the naked bimbo at the window, who in a great scene she kind of there's bizarrely there's a woman at the window, and she's as women at windows in slasher movies sometimes do, is all her clothes fall off, and she's standing there and sort of doing her hair with a breast swinging asunder, and then when they cut to her putting on her top, it's a woman with completely different hair. Well, it's kind of the only similarity is long and blonde. So it goes from a woman with straight blonde hair to a woman with a Farrah Fawcett flick. So bizarrely, she'd obviously got one actress who said, "No, I'm not doing nudity," so they got another actress in. But it's got a fantastic scene with teenagers roller skating around the car park, multi-story car park. being one of them being chased by the killer. And I thought it was really, really good. Yeah, I'm glad I finally caught up with that. I haven't seen. There's a sequel as well, isn't it? Syringa.
Sinjanor.
Sinjanor, that's it. Have you seen? Anyone seen that?
Yes,
No.
I've seen both of them.
Okay, is that worth seeing, the sequel?
The sequel's not very good, but that first one it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I just got to show what you can do on a very small budget, because obviously a tiny budgeted movie, but it was really, really good. And I saw the only other one, very quickly, I saw The Being as well, which I haven't seen before, and that's got the most ridiculous monster ever in it.
Yeah, the potato monster.
The potato monster. That was quite some monster. It's got such a big build.
I love VHS artwork for The Being, though, with the monster in the silhouette.
Yeah.
And has the bodies on the ground. Yeah.
Well, it's a bit
is it more stupid looking than the alien at the end of Contamination?
Yes. Yeah. It does look like if you can imagine a cross between a baked potato and a papier-mâché model made by 4-year-olds, and then painted by Bobby Sands, then it's that's what it looks like basically. So it's very, very silly, but it's kind of, they kept it in the dark, a bit like, I've never seen Night of the Lepus, which the Killer Bunny movie.
That's Janet Leigh, is it?
That's right, and they've the kind of the poster for the film has just lots of eyes looking out the darkness, because they knew that you couldn't have a Killer Bunny movie and anyone take it seriously, I imagine. But yes, The Being is worth seeing just for the special effects alone. So anyway, that was just a few of the films we saw. We did see quite a few more, but I won't bore you with those. So that's our recently seen, and I think we are going to go on to something that we've actually found. You found it quite hard, didn't you, Erik?
I did, yeah. I mean, I was trying to think of motivations and unveilings that were interesting. So my top 3 may be lacking.
Yeah, well, mine, it's bizarre actually. I found it quite tough as well. You thought it'd be quite easy, but it's But we're going to do our top 3 now, which is our revelations and our maskings and motivations on slasher movies. So I think basically when we'll say the movie, and if you've not seen the movie, you don't want it spoiled, or we'll say if we're not spoiling it completely or whatever, just to give you a heads up that you can run for the hills while we talk about that movie. So who wants to get the ball rolling? How about you, Nathan? What's your number 3?
Competition was murder at cheerleader camp. So mine is cheerleader camp. And I love that tagline. It's one of those ones where I always have to say the tagline when I say the movie. Anybody that hasn't seen it's already skipped ahead, so I can feel free to say that the killer is the mascot, who is Corey. I just find the revelation at the end, I mean, pretty much if you've seen it, like, before she's even revealed, you pretty much know that she's the killer. But at the end, when she's placed all the blame on the heroine, and the heroine's getting loaded into the ambulance, Corey's just standing there with that weird look on her face, and it's like, why do you think she did it? And then Corey, she's just like, wanting to be the best, wanting and not getting. I'm like, okay, you wanted to be popular, so that's why you killed all these people. Okay, I get it. And then it's to make it even more cheesy, as the ambulance is driving away with the heroine, Betsy Russell, Corey decides to jump out and do a cheer. So she jumps out in a cheerleading uniform and does her own cheer as the ambulance and cops are driving away. So, it's a very interesting revelation and motivation.
Yes, indeed. I haven't seen Cheerleader Camp for a long, long time, so I don't remember the ending. Actually, it's a film that I imagine is probably going to get chosen at some point, isn't it?
Oh yes.
I imagine that. Is that something that you might be on your horizon, Nathan?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay. Anything else people want to say about Cheerleader Camp and the revelation?
I was just horrified and really distraught that Lucinda Dickey turned out to be the killer.
Yeah.
Because she danced her way into my heart in the Breaking movies.
Yeah, I loved her in Ninja 3, The Domination.
Yeah.
She danced in Cheerleader Camp too, Erik.
Yeah, but not
she dances in Ninja 3 as well, a little bit.
Is that coming out on Blu-ray?
She does a lot of aerobics.
Ninja 3 is coming out on Blu-ray in Germany, I think.
Oh, gotta have it.
Because I've got the worst possible. I've got like a VHS version of that, which I tried to watch recently, and it doesn't get past the first 10 minutes now without going into complete sea of snow. So I
wonder if we could cover Ninja 3. I mean, it's sort of like a slasher film.
If you could make The Sadist into a slasher film, I think you can have a case for Ninja 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's another one possibly on our horizon.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and one I wouldn't object to, even though it's definitely not a slasher film.
Yay!
Okay, well, anything else you wanted to say about that, Nathan?
No.
Okay, right. Well, who wants to go next? How about you, Erik?
Okay, well, my number 3 comes from Pieces. Again, I love silly motivations for killers in slasher movies, and I think having a nudie Jigsaw confiscated is pretty up there with silly reasons to turn into a psychotic killer. Of course, we have a preamble before the credits of a kid putting together a jigsaw of a naked lady, and his mother comes in and scolds him and confiscates it, and this is what sets off his career in axe and chainsaw murdering. Well, there we go. Having a nudie jigsaw confiscated
is a fantastic motivation, isn't it?
It is.
And also having a mother, probably having a mother like that who sees you as a filthy, dirty pig, or whatever she says to him.
Yes.
Well, we've covered.
If only my parents knew, I could have,
What you could have had if they found you putting together a jigsaw Bob Hoskins.
Yeah. Oh, did you hear the poor sad news about Bob when you were away?
I did. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it's very sad, isn't it? But he's going off to have fun with his family, isn't he? But he must be quite an old boy now, isn't he?
He is 69.
Almost 70. Yeah, almost 70.
He's 69, Justin.
The year of love.
69. Yeah.
So anyway,
such age. Yeah.
Yes. Well, anyway.
Hey.
What was that?
That was like a girl.
Who did that?
Yeah. Who was doing that?
It must be Nathan.
I don't know who it was. It must have been like a ghost over Skype.
Yeah, it was Nathan.
That was Nathan.
Or from one from VHS.
That's awful. I'm sorry, but the cat was over here rubbing her head on the bottom of my foot, and it tickled. Don't worry, I kicked her away. I'm just kidding. I would never hurt my kitties.
Okay, well, we'll have to listen back to find out quite how girly a giggle that was. But
I can be quite girlish.
Oh my God! You know what's going to happen? We're going to call Nathan a girl, and he's going to turn into a killer, just like in the Lamberto Bava.
Play in the Dark.
That's it. Yeah.
You're a girl.
Nathan's
You're
a girl.
female. You're a female.
I'm sending you all on a one-way trip to a secluded villa.
Oh. Okay. Well,
I have a box cutter.
Oh, okay. You're going to make us watch Don't Go Into the Woods Alone over and over and over on a loop, aren't you?
Well, that combined with Splatter University, combined with, any other movie I could come up with.
Crazy Fat Ethel 2.
Yes, that's the one I'm going to make you watch in a loop. Crazy Fat Ethel 2, 24 hours over and over again.
And the tagline can be a fate worse than death.
Yes.
I'd rather eat Eric's ass.
That is disgusting.
Hey!
Eric, that wasn't an insult to you. I was just saying it to anybody.
My ass is delicious.
Well,
I know.
You've tried it.
That's why I'd rather eat it.
I'm not that bendy.
You're not that bendy.
I'm not that bendy.
Or Joseph, you have a very long tongue.
Yes.
Well, anyway, we've gone right off already, and we haven't even hit the halfway mark. So God knows what we're going to be like at the end of this. But right, Erik, have you anything else you want to say about Pieces?
No.
No. Okay. Well, Joseph, what's your number 3?
Well, my number 3 is a movie I think everyone and their grandmother has seen, so I will spoil it. It's 1996's Scream, and it's not so much the motive, but it's who the killers turn out to be. Now, when I saw this film, I was convinced that it was the Stu Macher character played by Matt Lillard because he seemed, so kind of perfunctory. So I was like, yeah, he's gone. He doesn't really add to the story, so he's going to turn out to be the killer. And they're trying to make you think Billy's the killer. So when it's revealed that both of them are the killers, I thought that was very, very clever.
No, I think it was very, very clever, wasn't it? It kind of nods back to the Hitchcock, isn't it? Rope, with the two killers in that. But yeah, That's very, very good. Because you kind of, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think what other slasher movies did have double killers.
Hell Night.
I can. To All Good Night.
Just Before Dawn.
That's true. But kind of, I'm just trying to think with the ones, because with Just Before Dawn, you kind of knew there were twins, didn't you, killers? I'm just wondering if there were, which ones, if there's any that, played that whole thing of how you could have one killer in two places at once.
To All a Good Night was one.
And spoiler alert, All the Boys Love Mandy Lane.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. That's true. And of course,
by the way, Rope, just incidentally stars Farley Granger, star of The Prowler.
Exactly. Yeah.
So he's that old. He was in both films.
He only died last year, didn't he? I think 2011.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, a long life.
Very long life. Yes. So, anything else you want to say about Scream, or anyone else who wants to chuck in their tuppence?
Yeah. What did was anyone surprised by the double killer reveal in Scream 2?
No, not really. I guessed both of them right.
Oh, I didn't.
I didn't guess them both right, but I did think it was a double killer.
Yeah. I can't remember. It's such a long time ago now, isn't it? It was about 15 years ago. Scream.
Did anyone guess the killer in Friday the 13th Part 8? Because I didn't see that coming. It was Jason all along.
The sewer baby?
Yeah.
Well, he had special skills, didn't he? Teleport skills, where he would suddenly be,
Yeah, so there had to have been two killers in that film.
Exactly. So, well, thank you.
It's Jason and Jason.
Jackie.
Oh, yeah.
Jackie. Yeah, that's it.
Right. Well, my number 3 is a film that none of you have seen, and I doubt very many people who are listening to this would have seen. But to be honest, it's kind of, I'm going to spoil it because it's not a great film anyway. But it's the 1984 New Zealand feminist slasher movie Trial Run. And when I say feminist slasher movie, I've just put a review up on Hysteria Lives of this, and it's kind of bizarre. It was made by a woman, and it was her response to slasher movies, basically. And her response was to try and put right all of the kind of stereotypical, as she saw them, female characters in slasher movies. When the irony actually was, as we know, most slasher movies, maybe not the Prowler necessarily, but you could argue that to some degree, were quite strong women who fought back. Especially, it does actually, you could argue that with the Prowler. But I think for somebody looking at the slasher movie from outside who hasn't really watched that many of them, would just think the slasher movies are full of bimbos in tight clothes that their the bras ping off like Barbara Windsor every given opportunity, and just get killed. And of course, it's not always like that. So in this, what she does is she has a woman who's just incredibly grumpy, and she goes out to a secluded cabin to document photographing penguins. And she starts getting hassled, and it starts.
Wait a minute, penguins in a cabin?
Well, no, they're in a bay nearby.
Oh, okay.
So I was hoping, as I said in the review, I was hoping it would turn out to be the killer would be a giant penguin, but it wasn't that good.
Yeah,
but it was almost as stupid as that, because essentially she's a marathon runner as well. So when she's not photographing penguins or having a face like a slapped arse, then she's basically running, and her son is a computer nerd whiz kid who puts together a program to try and get her to improve her time. And if you don't want to hear what the revelation of it is, then stop listening for the next minute. But basically, what the revelation is the person who's making her life a misery and is basically sort of almost trying to chase her out of the cabin, turns out to be her son, and he's doing that because he wants to improve her running time. And so he scares her, and then she runs, because part of the thing he said that she has to run to his phone box each day, and that's how she measures her time. And he saw someone on TV saying, I couldn't run any faster unless possibly I was running for my life. So he thought what he'd do is scare his mother to death just to improve her running time. And when she runs to the phone box, when she finds what she thinks is him dying, she runs to the phone box. He chases her with a stopwatch, and then gets run over by his father, who's coming to find his wife. So it was just pretty stupid, really, but it was kind of an entertaining full stop to quite a boring movie. So anyway, that's my number 3.
Well,
What a way to kill somebody.
Exactly.
I'm sold on that. I definitely have to find that one now.
He has got, I don't know if you've seen the picture I put up, and he's got this kind of these visors on it, which has got these kind of glowing, these kind of LED lights that move around, which must have been a look in 1984. And his friend looks a bit like Toya. He's got.
I'm definitely going to see it then.
Well, it's in so much he's got really bad.
You could call him the cardio killer.
Well, she's kind of looks a bit gothy, so it's a cross between Toya and Susie, because she's got red hair, but she wears black, and she draws a kind of lightning strike in black on her cheek.
Oh, I have seen. Yeah, I do know that picture. Yeah.
Yes. So, but anyway, that's Trial Run. So I thoroughly spoiled it for you, but it's it's worth a watch, but just for completists. But it's, if you can imagine, a boring feminist anti-thriller. With penguins, then that's Trial Run. But
that may be one of the dumbest motives I think I've ever heard.
Well, exactly. It's just.
I can't believe it's your number 3. I'm intrigued to know what your number 1 is.
Oh dear. Well, I'd probably be very disappointed. But I've got another corker. Well, I've got 2 good ones coming up. So, but talking of things coming up, what?
Here we go.
Yeah.
And how about a little bit of?
He's a cat.
Nathan, I think it's your number 2.
Oh, okay, yeah. My second choice is from a like a horror comedy from I think it was the early 2000s, called Scream Bloody Murder, and it's basically about these girls from like an all-girls boarding school and their teacher going on to this dance, and the van that they're in ends up breaking down, and they end up at this old junkyard where they start getting killed off one by one. It turns out that the killer in the movie is the new student, like the really hot, like long hair brunette girl, and you sit there and wonder, like, why is she killing these people? You don't really know. Then finally at the end, she peels her mask off, and it's the overweight principal. And like the second he peels his mask off, his body goes back to like, what he looks like as the overweight principal. I mean, like the mask somehow, changes his body as well, I suppose.
Maybe he had Spanx on.
Yeah, he had to. His reason for doing this is he thought that all the girls at the boarding school was getting too close to this machine he invented called the Enigma machine, which could destroy all of mankind, I assume. And the heroine is like, I'm not sure what that is. And he's like, you don't know about it? She's like, sorry. And he goes, oh, okay, whoops.
Fantastic.
That's a great one. I love that. I love that ending.
That's the whole ending. Like,
because this girl's so curvy and so beautiful, and then the minute that mask comes off, his stomach just blurbs out, and he's like all pudgy, and it's like, okay. I mean, you're not supposed to take any of the movie seriously, but still, it was quite humorous.
That motive is unbelievably ridiculous, too. Some stupid machine he invented. He's killing these girls because of it, and they don't even know what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah, and he's just so nonchalant when she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, oh, my bad.
Yeah, it's like, whoops. Sorry to kill all your friends.
Fantastic. I must have seen that film, but I don't remember it. Okay. How about you, Erik? Have you seen it?
No, never seen it. It sounds kind of fun, though.
It does sound fun.
It's campy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, thank you, Nathan. Erik, how about a little bit of...
He's a cat.
What's your number 2?
Okay, my number 2 comes from Nightmares in a Damaged Brain. And again, this is probably not a spoiler because the killer isn't... The killer is kind of revealed in the opening reel, and his motivation is kind of revealed early on as well. He walks in on his daddy getting it on with a dominatrix. She's slapping him around as he's tied up to the bed. And I mean, if I'd walked in on my dad getting up to that kind of antics, I know I'd be kind of upset. I'm not sure it would drive me to a lifetime of murder and rolling around the bed on the ground in my underpants, frothing at the mouth. Meow. Was that a cat I heard?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. I wasn't just going meow off the top of my head, in case anyone was wondering. I thought, oh, there we go again. So the idea that seeing your father having some kind of kinky sex turns you into a psychotic killer, I suppose, fairly plausible. But for me, it would be more of an ew moment rather than a, okay, I'm going to go out and kill everyone and roll around in my underpants frothing its mouth.
No, it's a good one, because he's very dysfunctional, isn't he? To say the very least.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure he probably was before he saw Dad, having sexual relations with this lady.
I think having been forced to wear a bow tie probably
that could be
worse, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was in a bow tie and a sort of starched white shirt.
Yes, which
probably wasn't even a Sunday. Yeah.
Exactly. That's probably what it was, wasn't it? It probably drove him to a life of mental illness and crime.
Yeah.
But of course, at the end of the film, his son, you see, he's kind of passed on the chalice. So
but his son is mentally ill from the start.
Yes.
Nanny, new, stick your head in doo-doo. I mean,
that was actually a good twist at the end. I didn't see that coming. With the guy as his attachment to the family.
Yeah, well, no, that was a good little twist, because it was a Italian director, wasn't it? Romano Scavolini. Yeah. So, because I got the double disc special edition from Code Red.
Yes, me too. Yeah.
Which has got bizarrely got an interview, hasn't it, with the director in Italian without any subtitles.
Yeah, there's a big story behind that. But
somebody on a certain site, which some of you may know, which is where you may find Baby Jesus, has done subtitles for that.
Oh, have they?
Yeah. So I have to watch that at some point. But Any other thoughts on that, guys?
No.
That sounds like a no to me.
Right. Well, okay. Joseph, here's your number 2.
He's a cat.
Well, I'm playing fast and loose with the rules, so this might offend Eric.
As usual.
Yes.
This might offend Eric, as usual.
Is it something from Xanadu? Then I won't be offended.
Yeah, that's my number 2, Xanadu. Basically, in Xanadu, I like when... No. My number 2 is from Saw, the first Saw. Not really the motivation of the killer, because everyone knows that Jigsaw kills because he thinks people waste their life. I like the revelation of the corpse on the floor, being the actual murderer and getting up at the end and just walking out of the room. I thought that was just mind blowing. It was one of the best kind of reveals ever put on film, I'd say. And I think it's close enough to be a slasher film. So, and it's reviewed on his site. So. So there you go.
No, I would agree. I think Saw does qualify as slasher, and I do like that ending.
I think it's great, isn't it? Because I also liked. Saw I thought was such a good little movie, wasn't it? And I just kind of, with quite really creepy bits to it as well, with the pig-faced sort of killer in the wig, pig in a wig. The stuff like that I thought was very creepy. Which it kind of got lost, didn't it? In the
sequel overkill.
Yes, exactly.
To say the least. Yeah.
To say the least. Yeah. I think. I think it's really good. I think it's a very good choice, Joseph. Nathan, what do you think?
I love the ending to Saw. I think it's really good.
Excellent. Anything else you want to say about it, Joseph?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, here's my number 2.
He's a cat.
Well, my number 2 is, I thought we couldn't have a list of top revelations and reveals and unmaskings without a giallo on it. And rather, there's so many giallos, because obviously, unlike a lot of slasher movies, I kind of guess, the giallos are mostly, not all of them, but a lot of them are kind of whodunits. And so you have the black glove killer and the fedora, so you don't necessarily know who the killer is. And at the end, there's a grand unmasking. And there's many, many, many stupid and wonderfully stupid reveals and revelations. And obviously one of them is, I nearly went with Eyeball, because we've done that on the podcast already, and that's got the most fantastic revelation and reveal and motivation for the killer. But one I went for was actually completely the polar opposite. Is actually kind of one of the best giallos, and one of the most serious, I kind of guess, is Pupu Avati's The House with the Laughing Windows.
Oh, great movie.
Yeah, and it's kind of if you've not seen it, and again, it's definitely a film worth seeing, and it's very, very different to the cheesier giallos. This is very much a kind of serious, almost art house, but still very chilling, and it has a very, very copious amounts of dread running throughout it. It builds up, and it's a story of a painter who's or a restorer who's hired by a church in this small village to basically work on restoring a painting, and which depicts. I think I can't remember which saint it was. Was it Sebastian, wasn't it? I think, or one of the whichever was the saints that got shot with
Saint
arrows.
Sebastian, wasn't it?
Yeah, Saint Sebastian. That's right. And he starts, things start happening. People start dying, and he's kind of, everything's just a bit weird. And it turns out that the person who painted the painting is I think he killed himself, or he died, but he's not really dead. He's got a kind of ghost, and he had two sisters who basically what he did was he painted people, he killed them, he got his sisters to kill them, I think. I haven't seen it for a long time, so it's a little bit hazy, but I think he got his sister to kill them, and he painted them so he could get the real screams of agony for Saint Sebastian. And this basically the two sisters are still alive, but the revelation, which I thought was really, really clever, was and again, if you haven't seen it, don't listen to this bit unless and if you do, proceed at your own risk. But one of the sisters turns out to be the priest who had hired him to restore this painting, and the priest suddenly just starts talking in a woman's voice, and he kind of takes off his robes, and as he does so, a big pendulous breast falls out, and it's just it's got all those elements of blasphemy and outrage, and kind of this kind of really ambiguous ending where the police hear sirens turning up, but this female priest and his equally mad sister start advancing on the hero as he's bleeding to death, and it's just a great film, and it's got a really, really good sort of twist ending and a good reveal. So that was my number 2.
Oh, that's such an amazing film. Like, the ending is the way the ending happens, like you said, with the reveal and the music, it's got some of my favorite music in a horror movie ever.
The music's so creepy, isn't it? It's
yes.
Just all the way through the film, it's got all of that really kind of creeping dread, isn't it? And everything's really strange, but it still works as a good straight ahead thriller. And I think Pupi Avati's his films are hugely underrated, and it's a real shame he hasn't made more horror movies, because he remade that film as the Arcane Enchanter, or semi-remade it about 10 years ago, and that's really, really good as well. He's made some and of course he made Zeta, didn't he? The zombie movie, which kind of missold to American screens. Bizarrely, you can imagine one of his films, people expecting something like Zombie Flesh Eaters or City of the Walking Dead, and getting a Pupi Avati zombie movie. It must have been very surprised, to say the least. But yeah, that's my number 2. So.
Good choice. Good choice.
Yes, excellent choice.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Shall we? Let's move on to our number 1s. Nathan, do you want to tell us what's your top reveal or motivation? Or
my top reveal / motivation is from Sleepaway Camp.
Of course.
Sleepaway Camp, wasn't the first movie to do a twist like this, but they certainly did it in the most shocking manner. The ending, I didn't see it coming. You have throughout the whole movie, I pretty much had to guess who the killer was. It was very obvious, in my opinion, that Angela was the killer, because she's killing the people that picked on her. And at the end, when she's sitting on the beach humming, and you think that her love interest is got his head laying in her lap, the people kind of crowd around, the counselors, and, Angela stands up, and it turns out she was just holding her love interest's severed head, because she'd already decapitated him. And then, of course, the camera pans back, and you find out that Angela's actually a guy, and you see him in all his nudity. That was a very shocking ending, in my opinion. I can remember the first time I watched the movie a really long time ago, but I certainly did not see that coming.
So, it's a classic reveal, isn't it?
Yes.
We've spoken about it before, haven't we? About some of these films, like the Scaremaker or the Girls' Nights Out, that have these kind of endings which are kind of almost completely at odds with the cheesiness of the preceding 90 minutes, and Sleepaway Camp really falls into that camp, doesn't it? Basically,
definitely, yeah,
yeah, it's a great ending.
Yeah, because it's funny. It's the film, because it's known, the Sleepaway Camp was known as being very popular with kind of younger teenagers, wasn't it? When it came out, it was kind of, because it's one of the few slash movies that actually has much younger children being killed, isn't it? Or that kind of actually having those younger children at camp, but then to have that kind of mind-bending, gender-bending ending is, was really set it apart, didn't it, from a lot of the other slash movies that were around at the time. So that's a fantastic choice, Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Okay. Well, is there anything else you want to say about that before we move on?
No, I can't think of anything else.
Cool. Okay, right. Well, thank you, Nathan. Erik, what's your number one?
Okay, well, my number one is a cheesy delight from 1980. It's Joe D'Amato's Anthropophagus. And, of course, this is the story of a sort of cannibal terrorizing a Greek island where it's apparent he's eaten all the inhabitants, and Tisa Farrow and her friends arrive there and try to unravel what's happening. So it's not really a whodunit as such, although George Eastman as the title character doesn't appear till maybe 50 minutes into the film, but the motivation of why this normal family man turned into a cannibal killer is because he was feeling a bit peckish. Yeah, it's now this is one I can really relate to, because there are times when I'm sitting around, I'm like, I'd love a Twix, and then I feel like I actually kill somebody for a Twix. So this is why I can really relate to Anthropophagus. Well, what happens is he's stranded out at sea with his wife and child, and he's gagging for something to eat, so he eats them, and that's what turns him into a killer.
He's just hungry.
Yeah, so it doesn't really explain why he ends up looking like a sort of amateurish made-up Klingon, but
I don't eat on schedule. I feel the same way.
Yes, so do I.
But he's so hungry, isn't he, that he actually munches on his own guts, doesn't he?
At the end, yes. Yeah. The fabulous ending, yeah. He's so... You see, this is what I'm like.
Yeah.
I'm Anthropophagus.
But he's quite skinny, isn't he? I'm not saying,
That's the thing, yeah.
Where does it all go? It must have hollow legs.
He has worms.
Or worms, yes.
Yeah.
And of course, the famous scene where he eats the fetus, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yes. Which,
just an Anthropophagus must be your worst nightmare, seeing somebody eating human flesh as a vegan. You must find it quite nightmarish.
I don't think it bothers him as much as animals.
No.
Justin's very animal friendly, and that's good.
Yeah, so I wouldn't mind, I'm sure, I've seen, lots of people munching down on things. Doesn't bother me, necessarily.
You're so dirty.
It doesn't bother you to see Erik munching on Kit Kats, Justin?
Yeah.
Well,
there are times when I really crave a chunky Kit Kat.
Deep fried Mars bar.
Yeah. Well, do you ever? You'd never get the urge to marry and faithful with a chunky Kit Kat, Erik?
No, never gone that far.
Okay, so your love affair with Kit Kats doesn't extend to licking them.
No, if things fall on the ground, I have that 5-second rule.
Okay,
but no. I wouldn't go married to Marianne Faithfull levels with.
Okay, right.
How did we get here?
I don't know. Well, let's claw ourselves back. So thank you, Erik, for lowering the tone again. Joseph.
Okay.
Joseph, what's your number one? Hopefully it's
my number one is from Slaughter Studios, and I'm not going to spoil this one because I think this is a film everyone needs to see at least once just for the ending alone. But basically, the movie is it's kind of like a throwback to the old Roger Corman kind of type of film. These filmmakers break into this movie studio to make this B monster movie. And then they all start getting picked off one by one by this really brutal killer. I mean, he just goes out of his way to make the death as hideous and bloody as possible. And the reason why I picked this is because I'm fairly intuitive when it comes to picking out the killers, but I did not see this killer coming. And I think this is a movie that no one not in a million years will ever guess who the killer is. So I had to pick this one because it's such a surprise, and it's kind of silly when it's revealed, but it fits in with the tone of the film. So that's my number one.
Okay, I've not seen it. Have you seen it, Erik?
No, not one I've seen.
How about you, Nathan?
Oh yes, I adore it.
Okay, is it kind of worth a watch then?
Yeah, it's actually it's a fun film, and I'm telling you, you'll never in a million years guess who the killer is. I mean, when the killer was revealed, I was like, what? How could I not see that coming?
And the runtime, it's only like 77 minutes long, so it's really short.
Yeah, it's like short put to the point. I mean, it's a little silly and over the top, and it's kind of the John Waters type film, but it's got a lot of great death scenes, and as I said, that the killer's revelation is just mind blowing. It's so unpredictable.
Okay, well, no, it sounds great. Yes, we'll have to look that one up. So, thank you, Joseph. Anything else you want to say about it?
No, that's it.
Okay, excellent. Well, to round things off, my number one probably will not come as a massive surprise because it's a film we've covered in some depth already, but it's is of course Happy Birthday to Me.
I knew it. I knew we'd pick that.
Because what other film can you have with such a reveal where you've got the motivation, which is Daddy was sleeping with a slut, mother of the whore, sister, and having pantyhose on your face, and killing all your friends just to make a point. It's got everything. It's got great death scenes, Scooby-Doo motivations, Mission Impossible style mask ripping. It's one of my favourite slash movies from the early 1980s, and of course it is the supreme Happy Birthday to Me. And so, no great surprises. But if you haven't heard I think it wasn't that our very first episode, wasn't it?
Our very first episode.
Yeah. Which, if you can listen back, and we're all talking like, I just want to have a birthday. Is the audio quality? But if you can get through that, then it's worth going back. But that was 41 episodes ago. Wow.
I wasn't there then. Everybody,
almost 2 years ago.
Yes, coming up to the anniversary.
It'll be 2 years in January.
Well, that's still 5 months away.
Yeah.
Well, I said almost. That's less than half a year.
And as you can see, we've kept up the camaraderie.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing's changed at all. No. But we're obviously we were Nathanless for about 5 episodes.
Two episodes.
I think you're only Nathanless for 2 episodes.
Oh right, okay.
First 2 is.
I came along episode 3.
The initiation, then he came on April Fool's Day.
But it's funny actually listening back to some of those early episodes and how muffled everything sounds, because I think what.
Not to mention how god awful we were at this.
I think we scared to death on my first episode.
Yeah, well, I think we'll have to do I think we should do a little retrospective when we get to our 2-year anniversary. But I think things improved when me and Erik invested in a proper microphone, didn't they?
Yes.
Definitely with me, because I had dropouts for like 16 episodes.
Yeah, I know. It was always So yes, but now we are, of course, the pillar of respectability and professionality.
Yes,
is that a word? Yes, it is a word.
I don't think it is.
It's professionality. Professionality. Is that a word?
I don't.
I'm going to look that up.
Look it up.
Professionality. That is a word. No.
Thank you. No.
It's not a word. No.
Ha ha.
It is a word now.
Well, it's in the Urban Dictionary, so.
Well, it is a word then.
It's the funnest professionality I've ever seen.
Oh, Erik, you're the worstest. Right. Okay. Well, let's move on to.
Before we move on, I just wanted to say something about Happy Birthday to Me.
Oh yes, please do.
Did you guys see the similarity between Anne's motive in Happy Birthday to Me and Billy's motive in Scream?
Yeah,
I mean, they're almost identical.
Yeah. But that would have been good, though, wouldn't it, if he'd pulled off his face?
Your slut mother was fucking my father.
Yeah.
And he's the reason why my mom moved out and abandoned me.
Get over
God, he is a mama's boy.
Yeah.
Serious maternal abandonment really fucks you up, makes you have sex with a psychopath. There we go.
He's not in much anymore, is he?
No, he just kind of stepped off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
What was his name again?
Skeet.
Oh yeah,
Skeet Ulrich.
He's the one that looks just like Johnny Depp. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why they cast him, because he looked just like Johnny Depp.
Is that true?
Yeah, Wes Craven really wanted to cast him because he thought he bared a striking resemblance to Johnny Depp from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay, interesting.
Which I think he does.
And actually, just a little aside. Have any of you read I can't remember the name of the book now. Was it Shock?
No, not yet.
Do you know the one I'm talking about? The hardback. Which
I've heard of it.
Erik, you read it?
I don't think so.
Shock movies, not Shock movies.
Is that the one with the hand on the front?
Yeah, coming out. It's used the mortuary.
Oh right, yeah. No, I know of it, but I haven't read it. Is it any good?
Well, I started reading it. It's actually really interesting. But one of the things which was particularly interesting in it was it's basically talking about what they call new horror, which is kind of like starting with Romero and Craven and Carpenter, and saying about how they were all kind of loosely connected and all around about the same age, and talking about the films they made. But there was, and I never knew this, and I take myself as a little bit of like we all are, kind of slash movie buffs, but saying that there was a film that preceded Black Christmas and Halloween and When a Stranger Calls, and it was a short student film where a babysitter's terrorised by a maniac on the phone and then threatened for her life, made in around about 1971 or 72. And it was made by a contemporary of John Carpenter. And the person who made it said that they were, completely happy that essentially John Carpenter had taken that movie and run with it. So it's the first time I'd ever heard about that. So I'll kind of report back with the name of the movie, and because I haven't got the book with me actually, I think it's upstairs. And if it goes into any more detail about that, but yeah, so it just goes to show there's always more to find out.
Yes.
So shall we go on to our feature presentation?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Oh, so is that a yes?
Yes.
Nathan? Yes, that was a yes.
Okay, good.
No.
Well.
Go ahead.
Well, here's the trailer for 1981's The Prowler.
It was 1945, the night of the graduation dance. The war overseas had just ended. The terror at home
Roy.
was about to begin.
Roy?
Come on, kid. Don't play hard to get. What about New Year's Eve?
Well, that was different. I couldn't help myself.
The Prowler. If he wants you, he'll get you. Tonight, the terror begins again.
They never found out who did it. But it had to be someone in town, someone who knew that she was called Rose. And Mark, that guy still might be around here.
Oh, man, I don't believe this. You're talking about something that happened over 30 years ago.
Whenever the time was right, he'd come back. The Prowler. If he wants you, he'll get you. Night after night, he waited for her. The Prowler. If he gets you, you'll wish you were dead. just when you catch your breath, it starts all over again. You may think you're safe, but you're dead wrong. The Prowler, coming soon.
Okay, well, that's a fairly lengthy trailer, practically giving you the whole plot, but the film opens in 1945, where a Dear John letter is being read out to an unknown soldier by a girl called Rosemary Chatham. She tells her jilted beau that she has to move on, as they don't know when the war is going to end. Then a year later, we see her at the graduation dance with her new man, and they go off for a little coitus in a gazebo by the lake. Her unimpressed ex arrives as he's back in the US. He's armed with a pitchfork and impales the two in a moment of Bay of Blood-esque gore. We then cut to 35 years later, when the first graduation dance since that fateful night is due to take place, and all the local college guys and gals will be there, but somebody once again armed with a bayonet and a pitchfork wants to make sure it's a night to remember for all the wrong reasons. Now, The Prowler has many, many, many classic slasher moments and slasher tropes. It has the college hijinks. We see one of the female characters flashing her boobs at old man Chatham, who lives across the road from their dorm. You have boyfriends scaring their girlfriends by creeping up on them. You have a graduation dance with a new wave band. You have some pretty spectacular gore effects by Thomas Savini. There's lots of stalking down dark corridors. There's an almost skinny dipping sequence, and there's a Carrie-like shock final sequence. So you'd think that The Prowler would be a grade A 1981 slasher classic, and it comes close, but it's not quite there. What lets it down, I think, is that the pacing of the movie is just not quite right, in my opinion. It has a blistering opening 30 minutes or so, but then it dips into quite a boring lull as Mark, who is the local deputy, and Pam, who has been scared by the Prowler, they wander around the Chatham house. Very little seems to happen. The scene just goes on and on. They're doing this kind of investigation that doesn't really lead anywhere or give you any vital information. And then it cuts back to another suspenseful scene where we see Lisa, played by Cindy Weintraub. She strips down to her brown panties and goes for the almost skinny dip I was mentioning. And that scene again is quite suspenseful and very, very gory in the end. But then it cuts back to Mark and Pam again, and this time they're wandering around a graveyard, and the film sort of drags quite considerably, I found. And then there's the most infuriating scene in any slasher film I've ever seen. It's where Mark tries to contact the sheriff, who has rented a lodge in the country to go fishing. He phones the manager of the complex, who's this big, fat, lardy lazybones, who's pretending to try to contact the sheriff on Mark's behalf, but all the time he's just sitting there playing cards, being very unhelpful. And the scene goes on for 3.5 minutes, which probably doesn't sound too long, but when you're watching the film, it just feels like an eternity. There's also a scene where a couple escape from the dance and go down to the basement for a bit of slap and tickle, and you think, great, this is going to be, a classic slasher moment. And, it's building up some suspense. It reveals that they're being watched, but it just turns out to be the caretaker of the building, a guy called Jimmy Turner. And the scene goes no further, and in fact, we never see those characters in the film ever again. It doesn't lead anywhere. But I mean, for all that I can complain about it, when the film works, it works really, really well, and it's certainly as good as anything in My Bloody Valentine, Friday the 13th Part 2, Halloween 2. It's just those dips. It takes two big dips in the film that I found dragged it down. So it's in the second tier of classic slasher films from the era, I think, rather than up there with our favourites. I mean, I don't mind slow parts in slasher movies, but I prefer something like Halloween, which takes the first hour to build it up and then has all the action in the last half hour. This one seems to do it in reverse, whereas it gets all its good bits out of the way in the first half hour, and then the pace drops considerably. Reminds me in some ways of the structure of Toolbox Murders. But I mean, I do give it a high recommendation because it is one of my favourites, even for all its flaws. So what did you think of The Prowler then, Joseph?
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I probably liked it a little more. The middle portion is a bit slow. I mean, there's moments where those two characters are just wandering around. They're not really doing much to add to the story. And then it has the Major Chatham character, played by Lawrence Tierney in the wheelchair. You know, you get glimpses of him every now and then, and it doesn't really add up to much. But you know, other than that, I think The Prowler is an otherwise excellent film, and I think it shares a lot with My Bloody Valentine in that we're going to get into some spoilers here, but I think it shares a lot with My Bloody Valentine in that the killer's psychosis is kind of re-triggered by this event from the past being, you know, reawakening in the present, or, you know, 1981 present there, but and also the killers, you know, both of their outfits kind of look similar. You know, you have the gas mask, and then here you have the face mask, the army face mask, and they both, you know, are shot in dark silhouette, and they're both, you know, have, you know, unique weapons. You know, this one has a pitchfork, and the other one has a pickaxe. But I think they share, you know, so many similarities, including the year they were released. But I also like the scene where it's actually one of my favorite death scenes of all time in any slasher film, is when the guy is sitting on the bed and the killer stabs him through the skull with a bayonet. I like this scene because it's gory, but it's also the guy, the actor playing the victim, he struggles, and it just seems so realistic and so, you know, just raw, and like, you know, he's just like moving around, like trying to get away, and he can't because his knife is like just jammed through his skull. And I thought it was just kind of terrifying, and it's one of the best death scenes I've ever seen. And of course, you get the really well done exploding head at the end when the killer is revealed. More spoilers there, but yeah, I mean, Tom Savini's effects, I mean, they're really good here, and you know, they stand up to some of his best work. And I like Joe Zito's direction. I don't think it's as assured as it would become in something like Friday the 13th Part 4, but he captures a lot of the dark corridors of the old buildings that they explore well, and then there's some scenes where the killer's in the background, and then all of a sudden, you know, he's right at the forefront, and I thought that was really well done. The girl playing Pam, she reminded me a lot of Amy Steele, kind of a Skid Row Amy Steele, but, you know, she was serviceable as a heroine. But yeah, I mean, you know, a thumbs way up for me. I liked it a lot.
Actually, the lead actress in it reminded me very much of Tina Yothers from Family Ties.
Yeah, I see that now that you mention it. Yeah.
No, I do agree. The killer's get-up is really, really menacing, and it did remind me a lot of My Bloody Valentine as well. Nathan, what are your thoughts on The Prowler?
Oh, I love The Prowler. I agree about the killer's getup. I really like it too. Of course, I love the pitchfork death scene in the shower. I think it just looks very painful to me. You know, like, I don't know. There's something about that death scene that just seems very, very painful. And like Joseph said, I love the death scene too with the bayonet. That's a great scene as well. And I kind of like how at the end, like, it pans back, the camera does, to the bodies, you know, like in the shower and stuff. You know, I thought that was kind of neat that they did that. I love the chase scene. You know, like the chase scene with the heroine happens like early in the movie, or, you know, one of the chase scenes happens really early in the movie, and it's a really good scene too. And I really love the scene where the heroine's in that, you know, the room where all the sheets are covering everything, and the killer's like, you know, trying to find her. I thought that was a really well done scene too. But, you know, overall, it's a great film, and you know, I mean, what can I say? You know, Tom Savini's special effects are excellent.
Well, apparently, he does consider this to be some of his best work, and it's actually quite early in his career.
I would agree. I mean, it's some of the best. I mean, it would rival anything he did in The Burning or Friday the 13th, in my opinion.
Like, that bayonet murder is spectacular, I have to say, regardless of how unrealistic it probably is, with the, you know, the guy sort of still being conscious for so long after having a bayonet stuck through his skull and coming out of his chin.
I thought it was kind of hyper realistic. There's the way he struggles up against it and everything.
Well, it does get the point across of it being quite vicious and nasty. Yeah. Justin, your thoughts on The Prowler?
Yeah, well, I kind of agree with everyone, really. I actually enjoyed it a little bit more this time, because I haven't watched it for a number of years, I don't think. But I do think it suffers from that slightly padding things out, where they're wandering around the mansion looking for clues, which don't really kind of lead anywhere, and it doesn't really tell us anything we don't know about, because the final girl, Pam, sort of knew about Rosemary anyway, didn't she, at the beginning? So it kind of doesn't really lead to anything apart from the revelation that Rosemary's stuffed up a chimney.
Yeah.
But again, Tom Savini's gore effects are still fantastic, and I imagine they would have a hell of a wallop on the big screen, because I think they were a little bit hokey in Friday the 13th. He hadn't kind of, they're still great, but they're far more realistic in this. And there's little touches like with the Cindy Weintraub's character when she's being killed in the pool, and it pans down underwater, and you see her legs kick underwater as if she's just dying, and and it's interesting. I listened to some of the commentary on the film, and we'll talk about the behind the scenes stuff a little bit later on. But I think it's both Joe Zito and Tom Savini are almost a little bit embarrassed, I think, about how graphic it was and how realistic it was. But I liked it. It had a interest. I've forgotten how hazy everything was. It was almost like it was shot through a Vaseline filter. Everything was almost slightly dreamlike, and again, listening to the commentary, that it was what they were aiming for, and apparently it was what Joe Zito liked about the script originally, that it almost had a bit of a dreamlike quality, that things didn't really happen like they would do normally, because surely, I know the cop was trying to get hold of the sheriff character, but if there's people vanishing and then you start finding bodies, surely you can start phoning other police to sort of try and come and help you, rather than relying on a sheriff who may or may not be a remote cabin somewhere. I thought it was, I thought for what they managed to do on a $1 million budget was pretty impressive, with the shots going back to 1945, and the dance scenes and everything like that. I thought it was a very handsomely produced film. I also noticed the similarities between, and they must have been coincidental to Friday the 13th Part 2, that you had those two bits really stuck out to me this time. One was when she grabs the pitchfork off the killer and snaps it, and there's a shot of her holding the end of the pitchfork out in front of her, which is almost identical to the famous shot of Amy Steele doing the same in Friday the 13th Part 2. But there's also the other scene where she's hiding under the table, which Nathan's spoken about, that great scene where he's chasing her around the room where everything's covered in white sheets, and she's lying under some piece of furniture, and a rat runs up to her. Now, she doesn't pee herself, or the rat doesn't pee herself, or it won't reignite that argument. But again, it was almost eerily similar to the scene where Amy Steele is hiding from the killer and the rat. I think the only other thing that kind of hints at how inexperienced Joseph Zito perhaps was with the film was, the endless shots of people running into each other. There's just lots of shots of Pam walking. There's so many full scares. But considering that he was such an inexperienced director, and it was really his first film, I think he did an amazing job overall with the film, and it looks great. But I think with more seasons, or somebody who got a few more films under the belt, it would have been interesting to have seen what kind of film he could have made if he'd made a Friday the 13th film before making this, rather than the other way around. And then I think I agree with you, Eric, that for me it's not quite the top tier. I think it's a second tier film. I think it's very good. When it's good, it's very, very good. When it's not, when it's middling, it's trifle dull. One thing I didn't really understand was what the point of Lawrence Tierney's character really was.
Yes.
Wasn't
he Rosemary's father, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was, but he just kind of just pops up every now and then.
But he doesn't have any
wheelchair.
Yeah, but he doesn't have any. Lawrence Tierney was quite old when he made that, but he went on to make Reservoir Dogs 15 years after this. It wasn't like he was an invalid in a wheelchair when he made this, and I didn't really see what the point of the character was and why they.
I think it's more of a red herring kind of a. He's kind of being creepy, sort of, maybe.
But I couldn't understand why they cast such an established actor for a role that has no lines and only appears on screen for maybe 15 seconds in the entire film.
Yeah, which is
it's a little strange.
Which is kind of, that's what I thought was a bit odd. And of course, I mean, the other, oh God, what's the name of the killer? We're going to spoil who the killer is.
Oh,
Farley
sorry,
Granger. Yeah, I mean, Farley Granger is, it turns out to be the killer. And he's a sheriff who's supposedly gone away for this camping trip. But in fact, is the Prowler.
There's a big red flag right there.
What the?
I thought that was a red flag. I guessed the killer early on because he's going out of town and he's old enough to be the guy, Rosemary's boyfriend from the past. So it's
and again, he was a name actor of sorts.
Yeah, a name actor, and they usually they do that a lot with name actors. They make them the killer.
Well, exactly, and it seems a bit, I agree, because why would you get someone of his, star, he was not like a massive star, but I mean, he was in, Hitchcock films and Strangers on a Train was probably his best known film, and then he went to Italy and did quite a few giallo, but he had a pretty successful career, and like you say, why would you have him in the film for 5 minutes? And then going, all right, I'm off for a camping trip. Unless, of course, he was going to come back at the end as some kind of superhero who was going to save the day. But it was either that or be the killer. But considering I saw this film probably for the first time in over 20 years ago, or maybe even 30 years ago, that it's. I can't remember if I thought he was a killer or not. Although having said that, I probably saw such a truncated version when it was released in the UK that I'm not even sure you would even be able to work out he was a killer. I think at the end, but yeah. Anything else you want to say about it, Erik?
No, just I thought there was some fun lines actually thrown in there. And actually, one of the other Friday the 13th Part 2 scenes that it mirrors is there's a double impalement at the start, which is it's not shot in the same way as the Jeff and Sandra scene in Part 2, but it's another sort of plot element it shares in common. But just after that scene at the start where the Rosemary and her boyfriend are killed, it cuts back to the announcer at the graduation dance who shouts out to the audience, "Are you alive out there?" So obviously they had they threw in a few fun lines, and also there's scenes early on with the college girls who, like Sherry says to Pam at one stage, "This is our last night. We may never see each other again." Kind of foreshadowing what's going to happen. Yeah. And like Lisa said, I can't remember the character's name. She says, "Lisa, I just spilled nail polish all over your dress," and Lisa responds with, "You do, and I'll kill you."
Well, I did think it was funny with the when Pam came back and her friend was still in the shower, or she thought she was in the shower. That must have been the longest shower anyone's ever had. She didn't think, "Oh, it's a bit strange. I left my friend having a shower, and now." Well, I suppose she didn't know she was having a shower, but if that shower had been going for at least an hour, hadn't it? And she might be thinking, "Why is my friend having a shower rather than being at the party where everyone else is?"
I know. Yeah.
But
she's sitting there with her boyfriend.
Yes.
Doing rude things, and they're not even married. I couldn't understand. I couldn't quite grasp what was the relationship between Pam and Mark. Were they boyfriend and girlfriend, or were they?
Well, they kind of courting.
I think they were potential love interests.
Yeah. And then a drunken Lisa arrives on the scene and starts dancing with Mark, and Pam's not too impressed.
No,
she looks a bit sulky.
But yes, I think. It's funny these kind of whole dance things, isn't it? And I think it says on the commentary about how it was made in 1980, and you've got this kind of contemporary dance stuff going on then. But then, of course, now that looks as archaic in some ways to us as the 1945 dance, doesn't it?
Well, it's almost like it's 32 years ago now, and in 1980 it was 35 years since the 1945 footage. So it's almost the same length of time.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It's kind of sort of look at that, and I think Joe Zito, I don't know when he recorded that, he sort of said about they could do another reel done today to kind of add sort of give it that kind of three things, which would be quite interesting. But obviously, The Prowler wasn't a film that got a sequel. Probably didn't make enough money to, I wouldn't have thought. But
well, a lot of those films around 1981 were sort of human killers. It was, it would have been difficult for them to have a Prowler 2 after the killer gets his head blown to smithereens at the end of Part 1.
That is true. Mind you, it's, I suppose they could have had his...
maybe
his Rosemary.
Son.
They could have Rosemary come back to life, couldn't they? Just
they could, yeah. That's what they did with Friday the 13th Part 2.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
and Rosemary could kill Pam at the start, and Nathan could go into denial and say Pam was never killed. It was just a dream.
See, I think that's a good idea, actually. I mean,
that's not denial.
To have a, I like the idea of having a franchise female killer, and the name Rosemary is kind of, it's kind of up there with Jason and Freddy and Michael Myers.
Yeah. Although she'd need quite a lot of oil of Ulay to get back in action, wouldn't she?
Yes.
You see a desiccated corpse falling out of the chimney. Which is a strange place for the killer to put, because he's obviously mad, isn't he? But to put his errant love stuff up a chimney, like
it is kind of weird.
It's quite strange, but yeah. Well,
he just likes stuffing her, I guess.
Oh, Joseph, lowering the tone.
Joseph, yes. Yeah.
But Erik, what's the Blu-ray like? Is it worth upgrading?
Oh, I don't have the Blu-ray. I'm going on the old Blue Underground DVD.
Oh, same here.
So yeah.
Has anyone seen Nathan or Joseph? Have you seen the Blu-ray?
No,
not yet.
No, okay. No, I was wondering if it's worth upgrading, because I watched it, and it's kind of it's a very grainy film, isn't it?
And as you said, very hazy. But a lot of films of this era, not just like horror films, had that kind of look.
Which is great. I mean, I like. They sort of say, don't they? A lot of modern audiences don't like that, and so they try and they clean up a lot of films, don't they, from the 70s and 80s to make them give it a slightly more modern look, which is very controversial, because it can sometimes kind of destroy that whole ambience. But yeah, it struck me that the way it was shot, because it was so hazy, and it was almost like it was a kind of dreamlike, wasn't it? Everything was slightly unreal. It was kind of everything happening inside the dance was almost real, but everything else happening around it was kind of just had a kind of slightly nightmarish or sort of dreamlike quality, which I thought was good. It was good. So
no, it looks terrific. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, we can talk a bit more about if anything else comes to us. But I mean, did you want to throw up any sort of behind the scenes stuff?
Yeah, well, the film was originally filmed under the title of The Graduation, but I'm assuming, I'm assuming because Graduation Day came out the same year, they probably changed that to The Prowler, and actually it was known over here to us in Europe as Rosemary's Killer. It was cut by about 53 seconds, which is quite a lot for its British release in November 1981. And I remember watching the Rosemary's Killer video in the late 80s and still thinking it was really, really gory, not knowing that there were 53 seconds cut out of the film. I remember I had a Baby Jesus VHS of that and My Bloody Valentine. Of course, both films horrifically cut, but it was my favourite VHS tape. I must have watched that double bill not hundreds of times, but like quite a lot. It finally did. Yeah, well, more than twice. Yeah. I watched it a Dirty Dancing amount of times, which is quite a lot.
Wow.
Yeah. Actually, it did receive it got released on DVD in 2007 by Optimum in the UK, finally uncut for the first time in its history over here. It was released on the 6th of November 1981 in the States, which was the week after Halloween 2. Now, I couldn't find any box office returns for the film. Could you, Justin? I don't know how it did.
No, I think it's one of those films I couldn't find very much information about it at all, because it wasn't the way it was released, wasn't it? I mean, I don't know if you've got. I can talk about that in a minute, but
yeah. But anyway, I'm assuming it because it's not one that comes with much hoopla. It probably didn't do terribly well at the box office, and part of that might be because it's coming at the tail end of 1981, when maybe the market was becoming a bit saturated, but also because it was out at the same time as Halloween 2, which probably would have been a much higher profile release. It was filmed at Cape May in New Jersey. Actually, interesting, it was written by a team of Glenn Leopold and Neil Barbera, who Neil Barbera was Joe Barbera's son of Hanna-Barbera fame, and if you look at their credits on IMDb, The Prowler really sticks out because the rest of it is all sort of Scooby-Doo and the Smurfs and other sort of Hanna-Barbera productions, which makes you wonder how they were chosen for the Prowler, but that's never explained on the commentary track. Peter Giuliano, who plays the Prowler for most of the film, bar the unmasking, obviously, he was also the first assistant director on this film, but he went on to work on films like Ghostbusters and its sequel, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and my favourite Arnold Schwarzenegger film, if you've got your gizmo handy there, Joseph, Kindergarten Cop.
Kindergarten Cop?
Yeah.
Is your favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger film?
Yeah, because there's a scene where a child comes up to Arnold Schwarzenegger and just says, "Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina." And that's just the scene. I think that's genius. No? Okay. Thank you.
I like that.
Well, I'm glad you agree, Arnold. He also went on to executive produce Sphere, Disclosure, and Sleeper. So he's done quite well for himself. I've lost my other sheet of paper. Oh yeah, the band in the film are called Nowhere Fast, and they were one-album wonders. They released a self-titled album in 1981 on the Scotty Brothers label, and they were never heard of again. One of the songs on the album does appear in the film, and it is called View Through a Tear. So if you're interested in Nowhere Fast, I'm sure you could probably go on eBay and find that. Tom Savini, of course, did the special effects. He went on to work with Joe Zito on Friday the 13th, the final chapter. I don't know if you've heard of that film. And also Red Scorpion, which I recently purchased on Blu-ray. It came out on Arrow. And it's a big action blockbuster. Well, not blockbuster. It's kind of a cheapy one, but it's got Dolph Lundgren in a pair of pants wandering around in the desert for most of the film. But it has some Tom Savini gore effects towards the end. The film was screened to Phil Scuderi, who was the backer of the Friday the 13th franchise, and on that basis, he got the gig for Friday 4. In fact, on the commentary, Joseph Zito says that Phil Scuderi said to him, "If I could retitle this film Friday the 13th part, whatever it was, I could get it to make X million dollars," he said, because he thought it was sort of that good. And the other thing that stood out was that the character, I think the character's name is Ben. Yeah, it's Ben. When he came on the screen, I was like, I know that face. How do I know that face? The reason I knew that face is because he even though this is filmed in 1980, he went on to appear in Prince of Darkness, the John Carpenter movie. He's the one who famously gets stabbed with a bicycle, which is not a sentence you get to say every day. He gets stabbed with a bicycle by Alice Cooper in Prince of Darkness, and he looks exactly the same 7 years later. He also went on to be in Deep Star 6 and The Horror Show, which we know over here as House 3. Justin, do you want to talk about the distribution of the film? I know Avco Embassy were interested in distributing it, and they were kind of big at the time. They were doing a lot of John Carpenter stuff, and they did The Howling, so they would have been probably a good company to have backing the film.
No, absolutely. I think it was the Joe Zito said that the backer, the person who put the money up, and he goes into some detail, probably on the commentary track, but also in there's some of the books that talk about the slash movie, and the name escapes me again. What's it? Oh God, sorry, my brain's gone to sleep. But anyway, he talks about.
It's not called Teenage Wasteland, is it?
No. Unfortunately, I don't go into that much detail on that one. It's the Adam Rockoff one, Going to Pieces. That's the one.
All right.
And he talks about how he was trying to get funding for a film called Epidemic or something, and it was a film about a breakout of a disease in an American city, and he'd gone to Cannes to try and get funding, and he met this guy that he said looked like a bum in a kind of blue safari suit, who but basically introduced him to this man in New York who answered his door in his underpants and took him into his room and said, well, he said, yeah, I'll give you the money. And so Joe Zito said he was very naive at the time, but he thought, wow, that was easy. I'm going to get $1 million to make my film. And then he got a phone call from him saying, actually, I don't want to make that film, but I want you to make this film. And I've got a script called The Prowler. And but coming around to the whole distribution thing was at the end of the time, this guy in the underpants put up $1 million. And he was worried that he wasn't going to get the money back because Avco Embassy were offering $750,000 for the rights. And I think if the film was a success, it would have meant that he would have made more money. But there was a possibility that if the film wasn't handled properly or wasn't successful, he would only get he wouldn't make all his money back, and he might lose, a $250,000. So he decided to basically put it out independently of any kind of semi-major studio pickup, and so it was released regionally, like quite a few films were back in the States in those days. And so that meant that when it got released in November of 81, that it was probably only in a certain territory, and then so you would have had a limited number of prints, and then when it finished in that territory, they would all been shipped off to another territory, and you'd have had advertising in the papers there. So that's probably the reason why the box office is difficult to find for this film, because it wasn't released like that. Although I did look in Variety, and it did say that the kind of words they were using were that it's a solid performer. So it obviously was popular enough to get some things. But Joseph Zito, I think, was very disappointed that the film was not picked up by Africa Embassy, because obviously for him it would have been much better for the film to be released to hundreds, if not thousands, of screens across America, maybe in the style of, say, Friday the 13th was. And so that was disappointing for him, and I think that's why he said, I think that why the film kind of languished in obscurity a little bit, was that it didn't get that kind of that release, and it was certainly as good as many films that did get wide releases and picked up by major studios. But yeah, I've got a few other bits, but I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to say, or anything that Joseph and Nathan have got to add.
Well, I had a few things, but I think you both covered them all, actually.
Oh, Nathan?
No.
Okay, I just want to add one thing about the music score. We were talking about the pastoral music at the start of the podcast, and that was done by Richard Einhorn, and he went on, or he previously had worked on a number of horror films. He did Eyes of a Stranger, he did Don't Go in the House, Shockwaves, Blood Rage from 1987, and he did this kind of horror film slasher movie, Dead of Winter, with Mary Steenburgen and Roddy McDowall. But yeah, his pastoral music does stand out in
Yeah. It's kind of, there's a couple of stings in it, isn't there, that remind me again of the Friday the 13th movies as well.
Yeah.
There's a couple of those kind of things, but I suppose it's probably difficult to come up with original ideas of how to do a kind of a shock moment of the 59th time Pam walks into somebody.
What a boing. Boing.
Kind of like a movie house massacre when someone opens the door.
I know, whoosh. I've got a couple of a few little bits here, and this, it was just the film was also called in production Most Likely to Die was another AKA, and it was actually being called that up as late as February 1981. So after in post production, that was the title that they potentially were going to go for. They went with The Prowler, but also, not funny enough, but the film did also get released in America as Rosemary's Killer, re-released, or because I've got a one sheet under that title, Rosemary's Killer, which has the image of Sinji Weintraub being killed in the pool, which is the one that's kind of used, the striking image that's used on a lot of the artwork, especially the European artwork of Rosemary's Killer. They obviously decided to go with The Prowler. The film, there's another film called The Prowler from 1951, I think, which has got nothing to do, it's not a horror movie at all. But there's a film which, to my mind, it kind of is quite similar to, and that was Violent Midnight from 1963, which, it's a completely different story, but the killer's attire is very similar in so much that is walking around in these kind of black kind of combat boots, and you only see his feet, which, again, is very much like The Prowler. And one of the things I did notice, actually, obviously, I thought is a very, very creepy look to the killer, but quite impractical, I would have thought, because if you notice at the end when Pam and the killer are fighting, that the killer has to pull off their kind of snood or whatever hood to...
the killer was Nick Kershaw.
Wouldn't that have been something?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? That would have been fantastic. Yeah, as you said, it was kind of released in the UK as Rosemary's Killer, and it was it was certificated or censored, certified. That's the one I'm looking for, by the BBFC in November of 1981. So I don't know when the film actually got a release, but it might have got released in the UK either at the tail end of 1981 or beginning of 1982, perhaps. I think that's pretty much all I've got for the film, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, the only other thing I was going to say was the other interesting thing from the commentary was Joe Zito was saying to Tom Savini how he didn't really like doing the point of view shots of the killer, and he said it wasn't anything to do with it having a problem with it, the audience identifying with the killer, but he said even back in late 1980. It was quite hackneyed. It was already a cliche for and of course we're talking about a film made in 1980, and obviously the slasher movie subgenre was popular for another 4 years, reusing that. So it just goes to show that a lot of the things that were being used in slasher movies at the time were not new things and being used time and time again. And I think the last thing was that just a little throwaway thing was the scene in the graveyard. Well, a couple of things. Scene in the Graveyard was shot on Halloween night in 1980 to add, I don't know on purpose, but added that little bit of extra sort of frisson of fear perhaps for the people involved. And also Joe Zito almost said he didn't want the film to be released on DVD because he hated some of the props so much from the movie, and those were the photo album that Rosemary, they find of Rosemary's, he said looked really fake, and the gravestone of Rosemary's grave, said it was really, he hated that because it looked so fake. It doesn't look that bad. Maybe it looks.
I don't think they look bad at all. Like no. I couldn't see what the fuss was about.
No, I couldn't. And just lastly, the grave where they find the body where Cindy Weintraub's been put in, replacing Rosemary's corpse. It was a real grave that had been dug, and somebody was going to be buried there the next day or very shortly. So I wonder if they got permission to do that.
Yes, it sounds a bit suspect. Yeah.
Sounds a bit suspect, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's everything I've got for the Prowler. So anything else?
No, I just want to say that I do, for all the complaints I have about the film, I do love it, and I do think it is one of the best slasher films of the era. I just wish that the pacing problem wasn't there, because I find it works really well for the first half hour, and then it just dips for 15 minutes, then it works well for another 5 minutes, and then it dips again.
But when it's on, it's really on.
Really is for a good 3/4 of the film, it's really, really good.
There's more there to qualify it, as being, what's the word I'm looking for? It's all the little stuff that kind of bothers you. You can kind of overlook it in face of good stuff. Completely,
yeah. And it's really well made, really well acted. No problems with it.
Definitely.
Excellent. Well, let us know what you think about the Prowler, because we would like some feedback from you. Let us know what you thought of the show, and also let us know what you thought of the movie. We're going to have some feedback coming up shortly. Before that, we'll let you know how to contact the show.
Our voicemail lines are open at 858-233-9281. You can contact us directly via email at the.hysteria.continues@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/thehysteria continues /hysteria-lives and /the body count continues. We're also on Twitter. That's twitter.com/THC_podcast. You can visit Justin's website, The Hysteria Lives, at hysteria-lives.co.uk. My website, The Body Count Continues, at the-bodycount-continues.com. And Nathan's Blog Talk Radio Show at blogtalkradio.com/the-axe-to-grind-show. That is AXE, not AX. Finally, show your support of the show by purchasing a t-shirt at cafepress.com/The Hysteria Continues. And we thank you so much for listening.
Yes. All right, and we're back, and I think we have quite a bit of feedback this episode. So who wants to go first? Erik?
Okay, I got one from my friend Paul. He says, I've been in the Lake District for a couple of weeks. I had a glorious walk around. Is it Derwent Water? Justin? I might need you to help me out with the pronunciation.
Is that near Three Cocks?
Only you.
Three knobs there.
Lord
Hereford's knob. Yeah, that's it.
Water. Anyway, and the weather was
Broke Cunt Lane.
Yeah. Oh God, then we'll go up to Donegal to Muff. I've lost my train of thought now. Yeah, he says, I've been to the Lake District for a couple of days, and today I've had the most glorious walk around Derwentwater, and the weather was actually good. But what made the day was that sorry, I can't read. I can't read my own printout here. But what made the day was that being on my own meant that I could plug in and got through 4 podcasts in 24 hours. The episodes on The Prey, the Giallo Crimi episode, Bloody Moon, and Friday the 13th Part 2. I enjoyed every one. The Prey sounds fascinatingly bad. I love Bloody Iris and Bloody Moon already, so it was great to hear all your opinions, and having just watched all of the Friday the 13th up to Jason X, I had previously only seen 1 to 3 before. I'm glad that you all had good things to say about Part 2. It was a little unnerving listening to that episode whilst going around Derwentwater on a boat, though. Thankfully, nothing leapt out of the water at me. Keep up the good work and all the double entendres, and thanks for keeping me amused when I was on my lonesome. And that's from my friend Paul, and I apologise for messing up reading that out, Paul. I should have had a little practice run through earlier, but I was too lazy.
I think you pulled it off, Erik.
Oh, thanks, Justin.
That's okay.
Yeah. It was hard, but I pulled it off.
Oh, yes. Well, we haven't had one of these yet, have we?
Nation, no, please, hold your hand.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to throw that in there somehow.
Oh, you do, absolutely. Okay. Well, no, thank you, Erik, and thank you, Paul. I'm glad you're enjoying the show, and so yeah, it's good to hear from people. And where's the strangest place you've listened to? Hysteria continues. Maybe we shouldn't have asked that, but
on a washing machine.
On a washing machine.
on the moon, naked.
Okay, right. Well, thank you for that. Who's going to go next?
How about you, Nathan? You got anything?
Oh yeah, you sent me something. This is from Reese, our loyal listener. Hey guys, it's Reese here again. Just writing to tell you how incredible the show is. The episodes just get better and better. I wish the show came out more than every 2 weeks, as it's high quality entertainment and you guys are utterly hilarious. Thanks as well to Justin, Erik, and Nathan for friending me on Facebook. You're awesome to talk to every now and then. Please keep up the good work and keep the cheese coming. You have the best horror-based podcast out there. Regards, Reese.
Oh, thank you, Reese.
Reese, I think, lives in Derry in Northern Ireland, if I'm not mistaken, which is not far from Muff.
Oh, have you been there?
I thought he lived in Georgia.
Georgia.
Oh, I could be wrong.
I guess I was wrong. I don't know.
Isn't Georgia in the United States of America?
Yeah.
Yes.
He lived in Ireland.
I thought he lived in the United States. I was wrong.
Oh, yeah. No, he lives in Ireland.
He does. He lives in Derry, which is a stone's throw from Muff. Just thought you'd like to know.
Have you been to Muff, Reese? Write and let us know.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Thank you, Reese. Yes.
Thank you, Reese.
Yes. Well, it's as usual descending into our usual standard of well.
Yeah.
I think it's just because we by this point we've been talking for 2 hours, and I think that's why it always descends into slight delirium, isn't it?
We reached dementia about this time.
Yeah. Absolutely. So but thank you for sending in feedback, and I'm sorry to maul it, but we do appreciate it. And Joseph, have you got some for us? Have you?
Yeah, I got one, but I think I'll save it because it's rather lengthy.
Ooh.
How about you, Justin?
Ooh. How about I do have a little bit, but I haven't got anything up at the moment because my browser crashed and it made GarageBand crash. So I probably might need to save that for next time, if that's okay.
All right. Erik, you got anything else?
I do. I have one more, and this is from Mark Jones. And he says, hello there, guys. I hope you slasher buffs are keeping well. This is my second time in writing to you. I first wrote to you back last year, and you read my email out during the Splatter University episode, one of my favourites that you've done. I have the pleasure of listening to my iPod pretty much all day at work, and because of this, I know most of your episodes inside out. I think I must have listened to some episodes at least 3 or 4 times. I'd like to request a film for you to cover, which someone else also requested last week, and that would be the 1982, inverted commas, classic, Unhinged. I love this film to death. Sure, it has its flaws, the acting springs to mind, but it has a charm to it, which is why I've been revisiting it constantly since the 10 plus years ago when I first discovered it. I do believe the main actress, Laurel Munson, who plays Terry Morgan in the film, is on Facebook. It definitely looks like her in her profile picture. I don't have a top 3 recommendation for you to do, but what I will give you is my top 3 favourite episodes that you've done so far. And this will please Nathan, I think. Number 3 is Splatter University. Apart from Joseph, this film didn't go down too badly. I was expecting scathing reviews all round, except from Nathan, of course. Justin and Erik did seem to warm to it a little. It was great to hear the interview with the director Richard Haynes and the star Forbes Riley as well. At number 2, he says his second favourite episode is Don't Go in the Woods. Like the film itself, this episode had me laughing out loud. The audio clips from the film are golden. Dick and Cherry's infamous scene, the dodgy impromptu music score, and badly delivered dialogue all made for a very fun episode. And at number 1 is Friday the 13th Part 2. Along with Part 4, this is my favourite Friday film. I do own the Crystal Lake Memories book, so I already know a good bit about the film, but it was great to hear it discussed on the show. Another excellent interview as well with Russell Todd, who comes across as a really nice guy. Erik also had me cracking up when he said he wanted to take this film, along with the original Friday film, into a hotel room for a spit roast. Classic line. Oh, thank you. And that's all I have for the time, guys. I'm looking forward to hearing this episode on The Prowler as well. It's another favourite of mine. All the best from Mark Jones. P.S. Just a quick one for Justin. I was in your home city of Bristol the other week, the first time I visited it, and it's a very nice city. My band played at a pub called The Mother's Ruin, which is in the city centre. I'm just wondering if you knew it at all.
Well, surprisingly, I don't know that pub. Because I knew all the pubs in Bristol, but no,
I thought you would as well.
Yeah, exactly.
How long have you been out of Bristol?
How long? How do you mean?
And how long? I know you don't live there anymore, right?
No, you do.
Yeah, that's why I've lived here for 10 years.
I thought
Brighton.
Didn't you live in Brighton? Yeah, Brighton.
I did live in Brighton. Okay. Yeah, that's right. But no, I don't know Mother's Ruin, and I live fairly close to the centre as well. So maybe it's been renamed or something. But I'm glad you like Bristol. It's a lovely city. So
a friend of mine is in the band, and he played there recently on a pub that was on a boat.
Oh, I know that one.
In the marina or something.
That's the I can't remember the name of it now. Something boat or the cider boat or something. But it's I saw Shona Knife there.
Oh, cool! I love
Kristen
Shona
Hirsch.
Knife.
Yeah, so that's great. It's a bit weird. You go onto this big boat and then you go down the steps and you watch gigs,
cool
underwater or on the water as it were.
On the water,
yeah. So that's cool. So thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah.
Yes. Wow.
And Nathan, I suppose you're glad to see 2 of your picks in the top 3 there.
Yes, I'm very excited about that.
That's it for me and feedback then.
Okay, well, how about Nathan? Have you got anything else?
No, just from Stripes, and she says meow.
Meow.
Oh, thanks, Stripes.
Yeah, thank you. Did we have anything? Is there anything on the boards? I think there would have been.
No, not this go around. Just a little few, like little great job, guys, kind of thing, but no significant feedback from that end.
Okay, well,
but I got one from here from a wonderful fellow named Brett Roberts, who writes in again. He says, "Hello again, you lousy bastards, bastards, bastards. Well, I was glad to hear that you seemed to enjoy my saucy feedback in your last show. I became so excited upon hearing you guys read it that I immediately went to type out this feedback, but found myself thinking, how can I possibly top myself? Indeed, how do you guys top yourselves when you feel the urge? First, let me tell you what I watched last night. A friend of mine, who I believe would qualify as a bear, by the way, came up to my home and we watched both The Howling and then the far superior Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf. Have any of you seen this masterpiece? It has to be one of the worst movies ever made, but it's definitely one of my favorites. What a howler, no pun intended. We drank some beers and enjoyed both films. While on the subject, I should say that Dee Wallace is probably my all-time favorite actress for her incredible performance in Cujo, which I sincerely believe is the greatest performance by any human being in a movie ever. Have any of you guys seen Howling 2?
Yes.
Yes. It is
a film.
Years ago.
Sybil Danning and her major assets.
Yes, and did you know that Susie and the Banshees were approached to be the band in that?
No way.
And they turned it down?
I'm probably for the best.
They shouldn't be turning down any work.
Ooh.
They were in. They were in. Was it Open? No, what's it? Out of Bounds. That film. You've seen that? It's the kind of 80s. It's really fun 80s teen thriller.
So Anthony Edwards, or
that's the one. Yeah, set in Los Angeles, and they do Cities in Dust in a club
cool.
there.
Love that song.
Yeah, but they didn't do. They turned down Howling 2 because they wanted them. I can't remember. I read something about it, and they said they wanted them to be do some look really gothy or something. Which kind of.
I heard that Susie turned it down because it was going to be called Howling 2. Your Toya is a werewolf.
Don't you drag Toya into this conversation?
Yeah.
But he also says, I also want to tell you that your Night to Dismember podcast was perhaps the funniest show you've done yet. When Justin described the woman lying in bed and talking to her husband, in quotes, who is actually a balloon with gray pubes, I knew I had to see this movie immediately. And he goes on to say, all right, here's some questions. Do you guys remember your first horror film? I feel like for any horror fan, the first horror movie is like losing your virginity to your dirty, drunken uncle. An experience you never forget, but continue to find confusing and perhaps upsetting. For me, my first horror film was Halloween, which my dad was watching on TV one night. I didn't know it at the time, but this was the TV cut with a few extra scenes. When I finally got the DVD of this extended cut, I had sense memory flashbacks to scenes I had seen in my youth, but had forgotten all about. I didn't actually finish the movie, though. As Annie was about to be killed off, my dad turned off the film and told me and my sister to go to bed or else we would have nightmares from the film. But I was hooked right there and then and ended up exploring the Friday the 13th movies. So Halloween took my virginity in an awkward way and didn't completely finish, but then I got the real good stuff from the Friday the 13th movies. And I think we've pretty much discussed in the past what our first horror or slasher films have been, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we talked about it because mine was Halloween 2. But
yeah, mine was The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if what film, because I don't remember seeing kind of like anything. Don't Go to Sleep was probably one of the first ones I saw as well, actually on TV.
For me, horror-wise, one of the first ones I saw probably would have been Jaws or Jaws 2, which I remember being scared by a lot. And a made-for-TV movie called Cruise into Terror was another one I watched that scared me.
Is that
I'm sure it's
Susan George in it? Is that Susan George? Is that one with Christopher George?
I'm not sure. Let me have a quick IMDb on it.
Because I've got that video around here somewhere. I've never watched it.
Oh. No, I did watch it when I was about Cruise into Terror. It's a made-for-TV movie from about 1978.
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard of that.
I've got the VHS around here somewhere, and I've never watched it. I've always meant to.
Yeah, so to 6-year-old me, it was absolutely terrifying, but I think looking back on it, it would probably be Cheese Fest.
Yes. Well, even more reason to watch it.
I'll have to check that out. I'm always in the market for more TV movies from the 70s.
Let me look here, I think. Yeah, it's got Dirk Benedict, John Forsyth. Let me see. Who did you say? Oh, it's got Christopher George and Linda Day George.
Exactly. Oh, we've got to watch it, haven't we?
Yeah.
I've got to see it now.
Yeah.
Directed by Bruce Kessler. That name rings a bell.
Interesting. Oh, cool. But he goes on to say, I was wondering what your favorite movies that are not horror films are. My all-time favorite movie is James Cameron's Titanic. I saw it when I was 7 in the theaters 5 times. It was the first movie to make me cry. And off the boards, I think we've discussed maybe doing a one-off about our top 3 favorite non-horror movies are. So, I mean, unless you guys want to do it now, I'm just going to save mine for if we do it later or whatever.
Okay, yeah, well, that's a good idea, because we kind of are going to struggle for top 3s, aren't we, soon? Yeah. So I think it'd probably be a good idea to do that. Yeah, that sounds good. Let's save that.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you can wait for it.
He wants to know, he says Blondie is his favorite band. He wants to know what our favorite Blondie songs are. His are Rapture and the underrated 11:59.
Heart of Glass.
It's a cover version, but I like Hanging on the Telephone.
Is that a cover version? Oh, I didn't know that.
It was some other sort of punk band had it out a few years before.
Okay. I used to, when I was growing up, Blondie were my favourite band of all time. Back when I was about 12, I kind of got into Blondie at the tail end. I remember like Atomic being on Top of the Pops, back in 1980. But I kind of got into them in a kind of big way just as they went a bit shit. And so around the Hunter album, and I had a really embarrassing moment when I can't remember if I've told this story before, but anyway, I was about 13 and I went into an independent record shop, and I went to buy the picture disc of Island of Lost Souls, and there were loads of punks stood by the counter, and I went up with my friend and said, "Can I have Blondie's Island of Lost Souls, please?" And they were all laughing at me, and I couldn't find my money, which made it even worse.
Oh no!
And then I eventually found it after fumbling around for what felt like a lifetime, and then got that.
So now the mere mention of Blondie makes you cry, probably.
Well, we did. I don't know if I can't remember the story, but I saw it the last time I saw her because we've seen her quite a few times, and she was playing some outdoor kind of concert. And we got very, very, very drunk beforehand, and we were all very well behaved. But we were kind of like we were a bit. There were lots of people there with kind of wine coolers and sort of sun lounges and stuff like that. And it was a bit of a Blenheim Palace type place. So we people were looking at us a bit askew. But I can't remember. I was so drunk. I can't remember if it was me or somebody I was with. But when she came out on stage, they shouted very, very loudly, "Fuck me, it's Andy Warhol." She's wearing this white wig. But anyway, we didn't get chucked out. But I still love Blondie, and I've got the Eat to the Beat video album as well, which is really good. And as my love of Double Entendre, I think The Hardest Part is probably one of my favourites. Have you heard the lyrics? Have you heard it? It's absolutely filthy.
Is it?
It's a filthy song.
It can't be more filthy than Pull Up to the Bumper by Grace Jones.
Oh, well, I think it probably... Well, listen to the lyrics to The Hardest Part. It's all her talking about truckers, and yes, so I'll leave that to imagination. But
yes.
I love Blondie, Atomic.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, my favorite Blondie song is The Tide is High.
Ah, excellent. Yeah.
So, all right, and we're getting into cock territory here again. So he says, Justin asked me to write in if I saw any particularly fine penises. Well, I've seen quite a few since my last feedback. I visit a certain gym that shall remain nameless. I will give you the hint, though, and say that this gym contains the letters M, C, Y, and A. Well, this gym is actually a gay brothel, very cleverly disguised as a gym. I visit it sometimes when the mood strikes. I imagine there is probably exercise equipment in this gym, but I've never seen it. When I go, I tend to just exercise one very specific, very large muscle. Anyway, I was at this gym, and I saw a man of the African-American persuasion with a very large and very uncircumcised penis, and I enjoyed it. I also saw a penis so large it touched the ground, and I became very frightened before I realized that I was actually looking in a mirror, and thank you for sharing all of that with us.
Well, it's quite some revelation, Brett, if you're telling us you looked in a mirror and saw a cock. That's not something that it'd be taken the wrong way, but
yeah, really.
but we like to take it the right way, so we'll do that in the spirit that's intended. So.
I should have sent this to
email.
Yeah, I should. Yeah. I was about to say I should have sent this to one of you. I'm not the one that should be reading this kind of thing.
Oh, go on, Joseph. You love it, don't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Bit rough.
Tickling my taint. But here we go. Last question. In the same family as the last question, have any of you hosts, specifically Joseph, and I'm going to go ahead and say no, I've never been to a gay bathhouse. Have any of you been to a gay bathhouse? Or perhaps a gay bathhouse disguised as a gym, like the one I described?
I have not, because I don't even think there are any around here. Plus, I imagine them being filthy.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of a germaphobe.
Well, I
have a bath in my house.
Yes. I have been to a bathhouse, but it wasn't really a gay one, but it was a bit. It was when I was in Turkey, and we went on holiday, and it was at one of those. I don't know if you've ever been to a Turkish bathhouse. It's like a Turkish prison. Have you ever seen that film? Is it Midnight Crossing?
Midnight Express.
Midnight Express. Sorry, it's like that. Except you think it's basically they throw on so many kind of coals onto. It's so steamy. I had to go and sit outside for a while. But they throw in this kind of Turkish massage, and so what they do is they either flip you around, and literally it's like picking you up and slapping you onto the counter, and but sometimes they take take you off into a side room to give you a private massage. And we were about 4 people, and one guy got pulled off, as it were, to this side room. And then he came out after about 2 minutes looking very flustered, and he was like, he says, I think, I'm going to go now. And he said, what? And he said, well, the guy, he took off my towel and grabbed my penis. And we were like, oh no. And then this fat guy that we were with, he was going, really? Ooh. And he said he went in.
It wasn't me.
He went in for a massage. And he went in, and then he came out after about 5 minutes looking very upset. And we were going, oh my God, did he grab your penis as well? He said, no, he didn't. I can't believe that. What was wrong with me? Why didn't he grab my penis? So anyway, needless to say, didn't go into that thing. But the same guy, he was kind of, I won't say his name, but he was this is a guy that Eurovision Song Contest party dressed up as a cross between Katie Boyle and Ginger Spice, and he got very, very drunk. And he had a very tight kind of catsuit type thing on, and his balls fell out while he was introducing the English entry. So anyway, that's why I always remember him and his outrage at not being having a happy finish in a Turkish bathhouse. So anyway, so to answer your question.
God, we've descended so far.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, there's always
further
to go down.
That's all I got for now, gentlemen. I'm having a very hard time waiting for your next show. I'm sure it will be a delight, although I should confess I did not enjoy The Prowler at all. Until then, keep sticking it out, keep it up, and keep it coming. Love, Brett Roberts.
Oh, thank you, Brett. Yes, well, hopefully we've divulged enough for you.
Yes.
What?
I think we've answered pretty much any kind of naughty question you can send us, so... How about, do I like, I don't know, horror movies? I'll answer that next time.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Well, you've thrown down the gauntlet now, Joseph.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's all manner of filth out there that can be raked through. But, I think we've probably... Have we topped ourselves? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. We pulled ourselves off of this one.
Or bottomed ourselves. We've done something, But yes, that was the Prowler episode, and I think, as is customary, do we want to say what's coming up next?
Yeah, that would be my pick. And next time we are going to 1989 with Cutting Class.
Excellent.
Yes.
Brad
Pitt-tastic.
Yes. So it's not a film I haven't seen that for ages, actually. So it'd be quite an interesting one to go back to.
And hopefully, I'm working on it, but I think I might have an interview with one of the actors from the film. I won't say which one, but...
Brad Pitt.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, very good.
We're old friends, so...
Yeah, that'd be great. So, well, excellent. Well, hopefully, tune in again for that in a couple of weeks' time. And we're going to play out with some music.
Yeah, just one thing before we go. Don't forget, everyone in UK and Ireland, to go out and purchase the Puppet Master Blu-ray, which, as we're recording, comes out tomorrow, but will be out already by the time you hear this, featuring a audio commentary by our very own Justin.
Yes.
And you can purchase it for £11.20 on Amazon.
Okay, that reminds me, they haven't sent me a copy of that. I shall have to chase that up.
That's $300 in American currency.
Yes.
Oh, and one other thing is that the Prince Charles Cinema in Leicester Square in London are holding a John Carpenter all-nighter on the 20th of October. Just a heads up for anyone who lives locally to that. They're showing Halloween, The Fog, Escape from New York, They Live, and The Thing. Ooh. That should be a pretty nice night out if you are living in the area.
Are you planning to go to that?
I was kind of, but then again, it's the price issue, really.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
The tickets for it are only £20 or £25, I suppose, depending on where the seats are.
Do they do stuff on 35mm, or is it all sort of Blu-ray?
I was reading because they did a Friday the 13th marathon on Friday the 13th of July, and I was reading a report on that on, I think it was Friday the 13th, the filmfranchise.com. And they said the majority of the films were were projected off 35mm, yeah. About, I think 1 or 2 were off Blu-ray.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. I suppose the trouble is a lot of these older films is that they were cut in this country anyway, weren't they? So so you have to that trade up, don't you, between sort of getting an authentic experience and watching a cut film. So
exactly.
We know you boys like them uncut.
Joseph, you were trying to drag us out of the pit, and now you're dragging us right back in.
Yeah,
back into the pit.
So, okay, was anything else we want to bring up?
No, that's it.
No,
I enjoyed the Prowler.
Yeah, excellent. Nathan, anything you
I
want
like
to leave us
sweets.
with?
I'm hungry.
Here.
Thank you.
Yes, you are.
Well,
no. See, Justin tried to ask me something, but he was being rudely interrupted.
Ooh.
Yeah. See,
well, you should stop doing that.
What?
I just want to say that I'm so fucking beautiful, I can't stand it myself.
I'm going to say it's showtime.
I was watching Female Trouble, sorry. For the first time ever.
No.
I got something for your face.
Have you never seen Female Trouble before?
I've seen the trailer so many times, but I'd never seen the film.
Oh, did you enjoy it?
I did. I loved it. Yeah,
it's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great film.
Edith Massey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's another film I watched on holiday. Was Crybaby, John Waters' Crybaby, which again
I haven't seen that one.
Not very good. It's not very good at all. It's kind of
I hate Crybaby.
Really, I love Crybaby.
Yes, can't stand that
I think
movie.
y'all are crazy.
No, well, it's just not a John Waters movie, really. It's just very watered down.
I mean, it's very watered down.
He went on to do Serial Mom, so all was forgiven. But yeah, I didn't like Crybaby at all. But yes, anyway, well, thank you for listening to our Prowler episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and please let us know what you thought. And there's cats in the background.
I heard pussy in the background.
Yes,
she's hungry.
Well, we'll finish off with play out from what's the name of the band, Erik?
Nowhere Fast. Their hot new single.
Here we go. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and see you again next time on the Hysteria Continues.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, it's exciting. Just like the good old days. Just I had more hair.
Guess you've been around here longer than anyone.
Yeah, 40 years. I'm good at having the girls back. Makes me feel young again.